Hey kids, how about we go a couple minutes early and have some fun?
Things I miss, but don't be unkind. It don't mean I'm blind. Perhaps there's a thing or two I think of lying in bed I shouldn't have said, but there it is. You see, it's all clear. You are meant to be here. From the beginning. Maybe I might have changed, not been so cruel.
Hey, Mark.
Are you sitting around listening to records?
Oh, yeah.
Whatever was done is done. I just can't recall. It doesn't matter at all. You see, it's all clear. You are meant to be here.
That's right. You were meant to be here, Mark. How's it going, buddy?
Was I? Yeah. I'm doing okay. How are you?
Yeah. Did you have a good time yesterday with your friend out and about?
Yeah. I went to a restaurant and the downside, I think I may have told you, is my blood sugar flew back up, and so I've been having to cut out carbs, and
that's hard.
It really is. And you know the thing that's annoying is, like, I'm not a sugar freak. Yeah. So, you know, it's not like, oh, I can't have cakes or anything, but man, I love pasta and
potatoes,
bread.
Yeah, bread. Yeah.
Any of the carb things is what I like, and so
your food, your body craves it.
Oh yeah. So I've been trying to figure out what I can do, what I can eat, and
come up.
So I've been plan? I actually started today crawling around YouTube, looking at videos of what you can do with diabetic meals and that kind of stuff, and figuring out
things on X too. Hey, Shadowhawk.
Hey, Shadowhawk.
Well, guys, sorry I'm late. StreamYard was giving me some issues today.
That's all right. You were out mowing the yard earlier, and you said it was hot.
Oh, dude, yeah, it was hot.
As they say out in good morning Vietnam, some crotch pot cooking out there.
Yeah, it was hot. It was humid. It was all that good fun stuff. Oh yeah.
I just love that movie with Robin Williams. Whoa, wee, oh, Ho Chi Minh.
You know,
that was one of his better ones. I like that one.
I actually saw the guy who was the bass
DJ.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. He did a talk at Mississippi State University when I was there, and
Oh
we
wow.
went and saw him. And it was all the Robin Williams stuff. The whole movie was basically just made up.
Yeah,
Virtually
yeah,
none
it
of
was
that
improv.
happened.
That's what he did, was improv, right?
Yeah, but I
Oh
mean,
no
even the plot of the thing, and
Mhm.
him getting in trouble, all of that was kind of baloney. The guy's deal was when he came in the 70s, he said two of the biggest TV shows at one point were MASH and WKRP, and he
Yeah.
was going like, I was a radio DJ in Vietnam in the military. That's like both of those put together. So he tried to pitch it as a TV show,
Yeah.
and eventually they made a movie out of it. But he played some tapes where they tried to make it sound a little bit more like commercial radio, but there was none of this, good morning Vietnam or anything. One of
Right.
the guys who was a DJ there too was Pat Sajak.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's
But
awesome. He just
yeah,
retired this year.
yes.
And I mean, their normal viewing numbers for that last episode. My mother watches it. Or somewhere I'd heard it. It went through the roof. Several thousands to see. Like they got like 11 million viewers or something for that last episode of his.
Yeah.
And they usually get about 4. They got a big bump.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. People
Yeah.
want to see the end of it. I remember as a kid, I'm a little bit younger than you. Chuck Woolery did Wheel of Fortune, and it was on during the day.
Yeah.
And the part I loved about it was after you won a round, you went shopping, and the
It was a
camera would
wheel.
like move.
It was a wheel with nails. And
Yes.
I remember one with Chuck Woolery where she spun it, and it went wonky, and it stuck on one number. And so everything for that whole show was $550 or something, because the wheel
Right.
broke.
But they give them like 2 minutes or something to buy stuff, and so this clock would play.
And they'd have like a
while the
room,
camera-
right?
Yeah, and it was like,
Yeah.
and it would just pan around, and they'll say, "I want the transistor radio." And as a kid, you're like, it's a shopping spree. You just suddenly get to buy everything in sight.
Yeah.
And
yeah. But you've
so,
only
yeah.
got so much time, huh? And probably a budget, don't you? Didn't
Well,
they have-
you-
Well,
was
whatever it was,
once
whatever
won
you
during the
want.
round.
Yeah. So,
So they would
but
do
they
it
would
after
have,
the
but
round.
they would have like a theme room. It was like a theater room or
I can't
the
remember
garage,
that far back. I
the
do remember Chuck
outside, right?
Woolery on there.
So you'd see like
Yeah.
Hey, Katie.
these people that won that didn't want none of that shit that was up for sale, and they're like, guess I'll
Right.
take the gas grill.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know
And
they
then
take
whatever-
forever. It's like speed
Yeah.
up, your decision.
Well,
making.
there was a clock, and then whatever was left over, you got like in turtle wax or something.
Yeah,
The overall
I-
sponsor of it, right?
you got
Yeah, but I
you,
do
you got free tickets to be in the studio audience of
Yeah, it was a much different show than it ended up being when it went to nighttime. But yeah, I watched plenty of it during the Pat Sajak years.
Yeah, yeah. That and Hollywood Squares, huh?
Oh, Hollywood Squares was fun.
Yeah.
Match Game, I loved Match Game.
Match Game, yeah. That
Ah,
still
yeah.
goes on the gaming channel. I'm really surprised. I mean, that gaming channel that they have, I guess they don't have the rights to all the great gaming shows that's been out there in the past, so they're kind of limited, I mean, they do Family Feud marathons, and I'm like, oh god, from the different eras, and it's
Right, yeah.
there's only so
Well,
much
they
Family Feud I can watch. I can't watch like 10 or 12 of them in a row. It's like, god, too much.
Yeah.
they could
Well,
probably
Match-
do like a Jeopardy channel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
just-
Jeopardy's one of the
that was
hardest
awesome.
ever. I mean,
That was
there's
awesome.
I love
some
that
hard
show,
questions on there. You
Yeah.
got to be
I'll-
about
you know-
PhD level.
Sure,
Yeah.
I'll
Family
take
Feud.
Schwartz.
Family Feud came out of Match Game. That was the end, like the
Mhm.
at the end of when you won or whatever, the sort of prize thing was. We asked our studio audience the top 10 these questions and the studio audience, and you had to pick and get the top three that the audience showed. And of course, Richard Dawson was on Match Game, and all the girls would always pick.
Yeah.
They would always pick Richard Dawson to do that part of it, and so that they just turned that into Family Feud.
And he was just a lech, dude. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Well, you look back now, and it does look good. But at the time, all the women loved him, so they wanted to kiss Richard.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, nobody complained, but good lord, man, he was like 12-year-old girls, 87-year-old grandmas. He didn't care, man.
On a 2-week hiatus, he's got mono.
I don't even know what he ended up with. It would be interesting to know what his story was, because obviously he was British.
I mean, he was a funny guy, man. Everything I've seen him in, he had personality.
Hogan's Heroes.
But that's what I was going to say. I only know him from Hogan's Heroes and Match Game and Family Feud. I don't know, did he do anything before that?
Yeah, I mean, he was in some other movies and stuff, but I think it was only like side roles,
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
His big thing was like Hogan's Heroes that really got him noticed, I think.
Yeah, that and Family Feud, I think, was the big.
I was on the Madness Network drawing stream with Levi and some other artists and did a couple pieces today.
Well, hell, dude, they used him as the host for The Running Man.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's a great line when Arnold says, "I'll be back," and Richard Dawson says, "Only in reruns."
Well, there we go. A couple of Geo pieces that I did.
I mean, that was a pretty good movie for back in the day.
Yeah. I haven't seen that in 1,000 years. I don't know if it holds up.
Right.
But that was my favorite. That was my favorite line in the whole thing was Arnold gives his "I'll be back" and Richard does his "only in reruns."
Yeah. Well, I liked I forget what his name was, Buzzsaw or whatever. What are you doing here? I thought I was meeting Buzzsaw. He had to split.
If you can't riff on your old movies.
Him and Freddie had the best one-liners back in the.
Oh yeah, those were fun too. I was looking to see if I had anything new to show, and I dug up some of the.
Yeah, I got anything in the mail? I got Dragon Rage in the mail.
Oh, cool.
Oh, you got yours already? Damn you, Jimmy Ray.
Yeah, I showed it yesterday.
Where's my Dragon Rage?
You forget from day
Where's my Dragon Rage, Jimmy?
Got it signed there. David Finch
nice.
Cover. I was the last person to back.
That's what I get
You'd
for
already
being
closed
nice
the campaign out, but Indiegogo hadn't stopped it yet, Mark.
You know what? I hate that about you because I made a big deal for a while of crowdfunding, of trying to be the first person and get really close to the to that, but then it didn't matter when fulfillment came. I was, because they'll go like, well, these are the single books, so these are easy to get out, so we'll just send those. When I did fulfillment on City on the Edge of Foreclosure, I was like, if you bought the big set, those went out first in the order that they came. Because I hate that when you're like, I'm the last person to get it, even though I was almost the first person to
when backer numbers used to matter, dude. I used to try to be that first backer. And there's like 3 times I've got number 2, and I'm like, that's it. I'm done. I'm not trying to be number 1 anymore.
But when Fun My Comic opened up, you're like, darn it, I'm gonna be number 1, and you were over there a few times.
Yeah. Well, the trick I found
was number 1 at Fun My Comic. I'm not sure.
I think so. You might have backed It's Lemon's last Dodo book. I'm not sure.
Oh, you know what? I think I might have been the only backer.
Well, I mean, no, there's actually.
Well, you're still number 1, though. Yeah.
Yeah, you're still number 1. It still holds up. No, I
mean,
at
the
least got one more backer on that or 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the time, I think I was.
The trick that I had to remember was to log into Indiegogo before it started, because I would invariably get caught by it's live, I can go there. I click on it, and then I was like, oh, got to log into Indiegogo, and that would take some time. But
Right.
I think there were 3 campaigns in a row for Graham Nolan that I got number 3.
Oh wow!
Really? Wow.
And
you got to be just there with your finger on the mouse, ready
I would just keep redoing the page over and over and over again until it pop up. And I want to say there was one that I maybe got 2 or 1 on, but and then
you're still my last backer on my book, and hopefully we'll get renewed when we get the Jimmy Reyes cover in, and in fact you offered to color it, so I appreciate that.
Yes, I love that idea. I'm doing what
that's awesome, Mark.
You'd say first backer, but I'm going to claim last backer.
Well, last backer so far, yeah, you've been the last person to back Devilfly.
But yeah, no, I think it would be cool to give that
last backer / colorist. See how many times has that been done?
Yeah.
But
it's the first
do you have any clue when it might come through? I know he's busy with.
I don't. I really don't. And I'm not pressured the guy whatsoever. I know that there's other things that have to go on the campaign at the same time. So till I'm kind of done there, I've just been giving him space, till I'm ready to.
That's good, yeah.
Till I'm ready to,
From what you told me last time, you said he was done though, right? It just needed colors.
I never said that. Nope.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was what you told me last time we talked. I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, he's got it kind of sketched out, and I've shown that, and Mark's seen that. But I don't know that he's progressed any further.
The other night, I thought you told me.
Well, I asked him a question. I said, "Do I need to get another colorist?" And he said, "Yes." Now I did report that for some reason he had problems with 3 different colorists, I guess, and the last one that he was going to recommend me, he kind of after I reached out to him, he was a really nice guy. I don't know what the problem was, but and I prefer the black and white, and I was thrilled when he sent me the black and white, really, and not in color, because I really didn't want it in color. I wanted to see the line work, so I'm thrilled that it's a black and white book, at least has that option, and that's what he sent me, So I don't know if that was just a thing. I was afraid I was going to have to wait on the color ones to get in, and I don't know what's happening with that really, if he's trying to color it himself, because I know he dabbles in a little coloring. I don't know what's going on with Dragon Rage, and I didn't even watch that Kingsman you told me about, Shadowhawk, where he kind of reported that. And it seemed like his backers, you said, seems kind of slighted that they were backing a colored book, and all of a sudden they're going to get it black and white, or maybe it's going to be delayed, at least the color.
I mean, I get it, for people that are into. Me personally, I prefer black and white art. So when Jimmy sent me the email that was like apologizing and shit, he's like, "I'll give you the option. I can send you the black and white right now, or you can wait." And I was like, "Dude, send me the black and white. I prefer that anyway. And don't even worry about the color edition. Don't worry about the money. Just go ahead and send me the black and white."
Mark, did you? I know Shadowhawk didn't back it, but I did. I bought 3 different covers in Clint Hilinski's Supreme. Did you notice that? He does a lot of tribute. It's like, to superhero.
What?
Isn't it Clint Hilinski's? Was it Supreme or Superior? Superiors. It's called Superiors. Yeah. And he had actually ended it and put out a notice on X, and I was like, "Oh yeah," and I was the last backer on that too. I think or at least I backed it after it already ended it and had the closeout stream. But Indiegogo takes a while to shut it off.
Yeah, you never know when Indiegogo's going to actually
sometimes
get
it takes
so
a
I was
couple of
probably
days.
the last backer on that, or one of the last, because he had already had the closeout and closed it. But Indiegogo just hadn't shut it down yet. So
Right. Yeah.
I've done that a
I don't
couple
know.
of times.
I don't know what the process is, but yeah, you say I'm closing it, and this is your last chance
It
to
could
get
stay
it. And
up
then
for
the next
another half
day,
a day
yeah,
or a day. You know, it's
the next
crazy.
day it's still there, and they're going, "You said this was our last chance." And well,
Mhm.
that's what I thought.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I was gonna dig through some of the
Indiegogo's over there. Yeah, we'll get to it when we get to it.
exactly. We're paying attention to those $5 million inventions campaigns because that's where they make their money. But I was going through some of the my recent.
Oh, wait a minute! I kicked you to the back. I hit the wrong thing there.
It's the Buck Rogers, the feature
yeah.
version of the pilot, which is a little bit different than the TV show. Tiger Man gets killed in the movie, which didn't work out for the TV show, so they changed that. This also claims to be the first time it's been released in widescreen, so that's kind of cool.
I always like that they brought back Buster Crab for an
Yeah.
episode or two. Yeah, in that.
Nothing fancy. I just they had a sale and I got Close Encounters
Close Encounters
in 4K.
Yeah,
Yeah, for cheap. This
Is that like pre-edited version, or is it?
I'm assuming that it's just the theatrical version.
Okay. I mean, you know, like they did with E.T., they removed all the guns and turned them into radios.
Really? Oh, that's censored.
Yeah. On the
I don't think
version.
I don't think they sell those anymore, though. I think that went over so poorly that they stopped. It's
Okay,
got
good. I'm glad to hear.
Version, the special edition, and the director's cut. I don't know what's different about the director's cut, but I remember that they did.
I think I told you on Johnny Quest they did the same thing, Mark. They had an official release on Blu-ray on DVD of Johnny Quest, all the episodes, the complete Johnny Quest, and then they come out with the Blu-ray uncensored, and I'm like, what? And it's like, the guy that's been trying to kill him, the Lizard Man, and he falls to his death, and while he's there, they've edited out him smack talking him as he falls to his death or something like that. So
there was something
things
like that.
They, for the first release, they deemed, I didn't even know it was censored, and I said, well, now I got to buy it again on Blu-ray just to get it, uncensored. They're censoring cartoons. It's crazy.
I did the same thing. I've got both of them. This one I remember because I watched it on the movie channels a bunch when I was a kid. This was Hot Stuff with Dom DeLuise and Jerry Reed.
Okay.
It was kind of in that same period of
Cannonball,
Smokey and the Bandit,
Cannonball Run.
They and then Suzanne, what's her name? From Newhart.
What was
from
that?
The Bob
What
Newhart
was that
show.
trucker movie that he did?
Twishette, the one with the gravelly voice and the big boobs.
Yes. They played cops who set up. They took over a pawn shop that dealt in stolen goods, and so they ran this big scam where people were coming in and they were videotaping them returning these stolen goods, and then they arrest them all at the end.
Didn't Jerry Reed do a trucker movie, Shadowhawk?
Well, he did
Breaker or
Smokey and the Bandit.
He was
Smokey and the Bandit.
Truck driver in Smokey and the Bandit. Yeah.
Okay. Was that it? Okay.
Yeah. Buona Devil, which was the first color
Buona Devil
3D movie, starring Robert Stack.
Can you even say that these days, Mark?
I don't know.
What
is that
year
bad?
is that,
I don't know
Mark?
what Buona means.
It
should be 1950.
I don't know, I just remember all the when I was a little kid, and the Jungle Adventure, and
Robert
the natives,
Stack from
the natives would come up and they would talk to the Dr. Livingston or whoever and be like, Buona, there's like I got a feeling.
And that's a 3D movie.
Yes, yes.
Or
So
the
that's what I've
3D
been getting.
crate. Wow.
I've been getting from those, and they have it. My 3D TV has died, but they do make anaglyph versions now, so you can watch
The
them.
little glasses.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and I love these old 50s 3D movies, and this is one that I had never seen. Well, I still haven't seen. I haven't watched it
They
yet,
did
but-
John Wayne Hondo in 3D.
Yes, and they've got the stuff, but they've never released it for a home video, and that's like kind of the holy grail.
Creature
people want.
from the Black Lagoon in
Yeah,
3D.
Creature from the Black Lagoon. they
Creature
did in
of the Black
3D.
Lagoon,
I watched
House of
it.
Wax with Vincent
Yeah.
Price.
Yeah.
And
John
there was a bunch of
Stewart.
terrible ones, yeah, but it didn't
That
last
was
very
worse.
long. It was just like 53 and 54.
Yeah, even in
And-
the comics, it didn't last very long.
Yeah.
I've got an old Mighty Mouse 3D.
No,
and the only thing
that shit gives
it
you
was
a headache, dude, when you're trying to read a 3D book with
it
those
is,
stupid
yeah.
glasses.
Rayzone kind of brought that back in the 80s,
Yeah,
a lot
yeah,
of
I've got a
3D.
Batman graphic
Yeah.
novel. that
Oh
he did
yeah,
in
the
3D.
Byrne did a Batman.
Yeah.
I hate that
John
crap.
Byrne, yeah, in 3D.
Oh, I love 3D. So this is the 4K
Oh.
steelbook for the 1976 King Kong. You've got
Yeah.
Ooh, very
kind
nice.
That's little-
of nice. The production art, the posters and stuff. If King Kong had actually looked like that in this movie, this would be much better. But instead,
Oh,
it's
dude.
just a guy in a suit, and it doesn't look very good.
The 76 movie, I had the poster from, I think it was
Oh,
Famous
that
Monsters.
poster is awesome!
And
Yeah,
it was
Very
like 12 inches
straddling,
wide, but it was
he's
like
straddling
30.
both of the
Yeah,
twin
but
towers.
it was
Twin
like
Towers,
36 inches long, dude. It was this huge fucking chunk of wall. It was like, yeah. They hung up right
biplanes,
over my
they had
bed.
jets going up
Man,
against him.
This was the first time I was ever excited about a movie. I got like the Mad magazine, the Cracked magazine. I read the novelization of the 1933
No
version.
shit. Yeah.
I was so into King Kong, and
Dude, that's how I was with Batman '89. I read the novelized version.
Oh,
I
yeah,
got
yeah.
I got the Marvel Comics official adaptation. I got all the official fucking magazines.
I think they should have.
And-
I think they should have titled that movie "Mr. Mom Makes Good."
Mr. Mom kicks ass.
The last was this. It's a documentary on William Shatner called "You Can Call Me Bill," and it came with this nifty
Pin.
pin. Yeah, that
Very cool. Yeah.
Oh, that's
haven't watched that yet, but
And
I
where
think
did
that
you
was
get
a
those little finds? Where do you go to get
I
your?
don't know if
Blu-ray?
I'd be comfortable walking up to William Shatner and going, "Hey, Bill,
Hey, Bill.
how's it going?" I think he might punch me in the face. I don't.
I've only ever seen him at the conventions, and he
You've
just
probably
knows how
seen
much
that
money he's
episode.
getting. Yeah.
You've probably seen that episode of American Pickers, though. His house was the first celebrity house that they sort of remodeled, a room for.
Oh no, I've never seen that.
No, I never saw that.
He competes with his horses and stuff out there in
Right,
California.
yeah.
But he had a new estate at that time, which has been about a decade or more ago, when he had the Pickers do that. And he had a new house in Kentucky.
Yeah, I
And-
was gonna say he lives in Kentucky now.
Yeah, and they found an old pie safe for him and an old sort of graphically printed barrel for a trash can and a certain desk, I think. And he wanted an old millstone for out front, So that was the first celebrity house that they got to do was William Shatner's new house. In
Yeah, I
Kentucky.
never.
Shatner's up for everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Dude,
he and his
Shatner
wife.
Shatner went into space when he was what, 90?
Yeah.
89? Dude's like,
I don't know
fuck
if he was 90 or he was definitely because he's like 93 now.
He
it.
was
he,
in his
he might have
90s,
been
I
like
know.
89 or whatever at the time, but it was
No, I
like,
think he was past
dude.
at least 90. Yeah.
what? Yeah. It was like your chances of fucking making this trip and making it back alive are like slim to none. And Bill's like, yeah, fuck it, let's do it.
Has Fruit of the Loom Has Fruit of the Loom come out with something? Because I mean, been seeing some controversy. Like Fruit of the Loom said, no, we never had the cornucopia around the fruit, and we all know they had the cornucopia with the fruit
Oh,
coming
dude,
out.
this is that they're
Yeah, the
fucking
commercials
trying
they
to.
used to be in the.
They're trying to
They used to have the
Mandela
commercials where they
affect
were
us on
wearing the
all
fruit
kind of
thing.
shit now, man.
Yeah. No, you remember they would have like a guy dressed up as a thing of grapes
That's
and
grapes, yeah, or
and an
apple,
apple,
Mhm.
and they
Yeah.
I'm assuming though that Fruit of the Looms have gone out of style, so maybe they're just trying to
Well, they're still
rebrand
doing
themselves.
maybe.
Nah, you know, this is top secret information. I can't reveal my sources, but I've heard that the next ones that are going down as a Mandela effect are the cavity creeps from Crust. They're gonna tell us that they
Oh,
never existed.
we know they didn't. I thought it was going to be more about Fruit of the Loom, and I was going to say it was like Underground Underwear Network.
Well, I could have
Heard
gone
from
for
the Underground Underwear Network.
I could have gone for a cheap joke about the grapes, I guess, but
I was just wondering about the Fruit of the Loom because I've been seeing things on there. I mean, you can't deny there's
What the
two-headed
hell is
cows
that?
out there. That's two-headed cow. Isn't that freaky?
oh, those are the
Oh,
you hear the cicadas, Mark?
oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, this fucking crazy ass shit.
They're really not that loud. I couldn't hardly hear them.
No, we were supposed to have like this crazy invasion of two different breeds of them this year.
Yeah, I
and,
remember that. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
something else
something
that's
happened.
freaky.
Oh,
Kamala
look,
Harris and her mother
it's
when
back
she was young
again.
in
Now this
1964.
is a normal one. One you heard a minute ago was one of the other ones.
Oh,
He's
so they.
obsessed with cicadas.
Yeah, because there's like they have 7 14-year cycles.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
like,
They come.
And what
Yeah.
I do is
around,
take
yeah.
my mosquito and I kill them. I take the
Yeah,
mosquito
Rex
spray
Rexus
truck
goes on
and
kills
saturate
them
this
by
and I
the
find them dead.
billions.
Yeah.
Yeah. They will even
But
kill
as
a
a
cicada.
kid, though, the fun part was finding their little shells everywhere and pulling them off the trees and stuff.
Yeah.
Nah,
Yeah,
dude,
like
They look
like
freaky
it was
with
almost
claws. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just like a little empty bug.
Now this is not
yeah,
Pixar.
those
This
are
is
fun
actually
until you go camping and you've got 3 little girls that wake up in the morning and they start looking around camp and going, blah, dad.
this is not
Yeah.
Pixar though. It looks like one of their characters. This is a one-eyed albino shark.
Good Lord.
What
What are they putting in the water over there?
I know, right?
the hell? That is not real, dude. That's
That
full of
can't be
stuff.
real.
All right.
Yeah.
I source this stuff, but okay, that's fine. You don't believe that one?
That looks like some kind of Photoshop shit, dude.
No,
What the
Here's
fuck?
here's mutated deer with their antler.
Holy crap. You
Okay,
sure this isn't just some
I
sort
can
of
almost
AI or
believe
something?
some of that.
Yeah.
Almost.
Sharks' eyes are way on the sides of their head, though. It seems weird that one would form here.
I mean, they're
Yeah,
showing weird
that-
stuff. This is an actual animal here. You've probably seen this type of antelope there with the snout.
No, I've never seen
Yeah,
that.
that almost
Really?
looks like it's that's Photoshop too, dude. It's a
not
taper.
Okay,
It's
Shadow
a
Hawk, I'm telling
taper
you.
combined with an antelope.
He's just being difficult. Thank you, folks.
Dude, I know what a
Anyway.
taper is. Have you ever seen a taper?
I'm not answering you. There we go. Maine
Yeah.
wolf.
That is completely fake. That head is not from the same photo as that.
Oh, okay, now you're starting
You
with me.
can
Okay,
you
got
can
it.
tell the contrast is different. That's a completely phony photo.
All right, take it
All I
away.
can
Okay.
say is that their fox has some long, sexy legs. What's that? Vampire goat? What is that? The
It looks
fucking
like half like
chupacabra,
a
bro?
donkey.
That was a tough deer. A tough deer.
Tough deer.
Fucking chupacabra. What if
Oh,
Isn't it type of sheep?
Wait, what's his name show now? It's After Dark with Ed, whatever.
yeah,
his name.
Ed Gaines?
he's P.T.
Is
Barnum
that who
now.
you're thinking of?
The aliens are coming down. Better tape your butthole shut.
That would be unfortunate if you were a goat that had that many.
Oh, dude.
That'd be
How do
dangerous,
you...
wouldn't it?
All right, well, that's just a bad goat owner because you should be trimming those things down so that the thing can live a normal life.
Yeah,
I
That ain't
suppose.
right.
I mean, it is
that's
with the
goat
breed.
abuse.
It is the breed,
Dude,
though.
if
See?
that thing was left out in the wild, it would break them off
Yeah.
by itself and
Right.
pile them down on rocks and shit. But because it's raised on a farm, it's a freak. It's
Okay.
it's just like a hamster, dude. If you don't let them file their teeth down, their teeth will eventually grow right through their face,
Here
Ugh.
is a
through the
West
bottom
African
and the top.
slender
I've
snout.
got a new idea for a horror movie with hamsters with giant teeth.
Here's your lizard
Hold on,
representation
baby.
for the day, Lorenzo. This is a slender snout West African croc.
Ugh.
Oh, a
Yeah.
slender snout.
It looks vicious, doesn't it?
It's
With that
still full of
black.
goddamn teeth, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I gotta go help the wife for a minute. I'll be right back, boys.
All right.
Okay.
And then here is a mutated croc. Let's check this out. It's kind of got a fishtail or mermaid. It's like the legs are fused with the webbing in between.
Well,
don't know
but
what
it's still got legs up there. That doesn't seem.
Yeah. Yeah, just the. Oh, does he? Okay, so it's got
Yeah,
the
he's
tail
got 4 legs.
Okay,
and then
all right. I see that now.
his
Yeah.
tail
Yeah.
is split
It's
somehow.
split and
Maybe.
webbed. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's wild.
that's kind of.
It's kind of freaky, isn't it? If you found that. Here is a two-headed.
Well, they swim with the tail like this, so it wouldn't help them in any way.
Yeah. Here is a two-headed bearded dragon.
Well, there are no dragons, so we know.
Okay.
So that's just.
I get
Yeah.
conjoined at the
So.
body there. Look at that.
Yeah. Well, it would make sense that there would be conjoined twins in the animal kingdom as well. They probably just don't live very long.
Right. Yeah. They probably sell great at the pet store, though, right?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
But you got to assume that they're going to have problems and not live very long. But
probably. Now, this is freaky. A frog with a genetic mutation that causes its eyes to grow inside its mouth instead of on the top of its head.
Nobody wants that.
I'm telling you, Kermit the Frog here.
Ah.
So does it have to have its mouth open to see? And or is he blind?
Think that it probably hurts to close his mouth and eat. I don't think that would last long. Yeah.
Keep your eyes moistened, though, wouldn't it? Hey, Jonas.
Does his can he close his eyes? Does he have eyelids on the inside as well, or is it just?
I don't think frogs have eyelids. Mark, what shows have you been watching?
I think I've seen blinking.
Oh, you think they do?
Before.
Okay.
I think I've seen blinking frogs.
The great African snail. Look how big.
I think that's a bogus one too.
No, I've actually seen these things. They're huge. They're huge. And you can ask Ray. He's in the chat. He's from Australia. They got some huge crabs and all types of things down there. They're I think they've got a large variety of smell too. Snail, not smell.
Is that the one that Dr. Dolittle had in the movie that they traveled?
This is a glass frog where he's transparent. You can see him. I guess it's a female because that looks like eggs.
Yeah, that's what it looks like.
Yeah.
Weird.
That is
Frogs
weird,
are
isn't
weird,
it?
Yeah.
I wonder what kind of environment being transparent like that helps.
I
You know? I mean, Really?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what
Transparent
the.
skin? Where
You would
it,
almost assume that it maybe it's in the dark or something where it doesn't.
yeah,
You
maybe.
know, because sometimes you see like those fish that are from those
In the
deep
cage.
fathoms.
Yeah.
Those tend to be transparent.
Here is a spiny bush viper. That looks wicked.
Oh wow!
And
Look at
I
that
assume
eye.
since it's
Yeah,
called viper, it's probably poisonous, huh?
it doesn't look like it would be friendly. No, I wouldn't pick
Well, it
one of
doesn't
those
look
up if I
friendly,
saw
no.
it. Yeah.
And yeah.
But wow, that's a pretty looking.
It is pretty looking. And then you've got the alligator snapping turtle. Those things will take your arm off.
Jesus, no. I'm not
Jesus,
interested
no.
in one of those. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is
There's
the
no
best.
part of him that looks pleasant. Even
I
his
did
tail
not
is
know till I was
yeah.
grown adult, in my 20s, before I ever knew that hogging. Now they called it hogging. There's different names for it, where you reach into the burrow or whatever and pull out a fish, by its gills.
Oh yeah.
Well, my ex-father-in-law did that once, and he pulled out a whole handful of water moccasins, and he said, I quit. I never
Oh
did that again. But now what if you had a snapping turtle? It could take your
yeah.
fingers off.
I was gonna say you pull
That's
your hand out and
crazy,
not have any
reaching
fingers,
down
yeah.
under the water and, to pull a fish. It's not worth it. You could lose your hand.
No.
His
And I've
forearms were
seen it
all
where those
scarred up.
people yeah, because the fish would actually swallow your hand and you'd pull it out and then have to get the fish off. No, that didn't
Right.
seem like fun for me. I don't think I would
No.
reach into
I
the
never knew that
swamp
was
for
a
anything.
fishing technique, though. But you got to be crazy to reach in there.
I think so.
Here's a pink fairy armadillo. I did not name these things. Now, you'll probably say it's Photoshop, but I don't care. There you go. That's a pink fairy armadillo. I've actually seen some footage of one of those moving around. Yeah.
Is that just like maybe a juvenile one, or is
It
that
is.
like an
It's a small
albino
juvenile. That
thing?
small. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. They
Maybe
might
it's
have
like
a
an
small.
albino. Yeah.
They might have a small variety. It does look albino, doesn't it? The pink and the
Yeah.
white. It almost
I
looks.
saw. Yeah, I saw
It's
an
like a
albino
mole.
once
Yeah.
in the woods. They can book. That was because I spotted it, tried to get a little closer, and it took off like a shot. I didn't realize that armadillos were fast.
Now, this next one is not Billy Idol, okay? It's a lowland streaked teenrick. Pretty cool looking.
Teenrick? Oh. Not
It
much
looks
to
like
him.
a little shrew, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Long snout and everything.
He does look like he's a punk rocker, though.
He does look punk, doesn't he?
Oi!
Rebel, yeah.
Yeah. Go with the anarchy. Yeah, that doesn't look like a conservative mouse.
I don't know if you saw on X. I won't subject you to this, but childless cat ladies playing mandolin and guitar, supporting Kamala. Childless cat ladies for Kamala. I kid you not.
Let's not give them any air.
Let's don't give them any air whatsoever. Yeah. I think that this is a little sus. That's the way I wake up feeling sometimes,
Yeah, that one is by far the most convincing one yet.
Oh, really?
I believe that one completely. Yes.
Okay, you believe that one completely.
I don't think there was any photoshopping involved in that. I think that's an actual photo. Yeah.
Footage obtained by Real Mucker Raker shows numerous non-citizens admitting to being registered voters. A staggering 14% of non-citizens spoke to admittedly being registered voters. I've been seeing more and more on that. That's kind of disturbing.
Can't they in some places vote like in city? elections. I want to say somebody told me once.
See, I don't think they should
you
be
can
able to
get-
vote, period, unless they're a citizen.
Well, yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah.
You know, I mean, voting is for citizens. They're trying to blur the lines and say, make these all citizens, because then they'll vote blue, and then that'll solve the voting problem, because there won't be any voting that will be worth anything past then. It'll be like Argentina, where, yay, I won, or Putin, yay, I won. Yeah, we all know,
And if
you dissent, you disappear,
Yeah,
I guess you've been seeing that Olympics debacle with the woman giving up her match against the male, quote, female boxer. Those two male boxers that are in the female are, actually doing fairly well. I take it, but this blows my mind. The one that got down on the canvas, took a knee and started crying, and made a big thing out of it, and she should, waited a lifetime to make it to the Olympics. They awarded her the prize money, even though she lost the match. Okay.
Well,
what's up with that? That's admitting.
Wait a minute. Do you get prize money from the Olympics? I thought that was an amateur
apparently thing. It says International Boxing Association will award Angela, who abandoned the fight against Argentina's guy, the IBA prize money, as if she were an Olympic champion. The president.
Okay, maybe that's outside of the Olympics, because I thought, like, in the old days, you had to be an amateur to be in the Olympics. That there were like certain exceptions.
They changed that like back in the early 2000s, dude. Yeah. You remember when we had the dream team for hockey and it was all professional hockey players?
Yeah, I was going to say we've had basketball teams that have had professional basketball players. So yeah, they must have changed that. But I don't know. Everybody's arguing the semantics of what this is. This was clearly somebody who had an enormous amount of masculinity, and it's unfair. It's unfair in an ordinary situation.
It definitely is. Yeah,
because it isn't boxing normally by height and weight and stuff. You have a class or there's a thing that you fit in. I don't think it gets to be that. Uneven as far as going into the ring, because if you've got somebody who's huge going up there's a little person, that doesn't seem like sport. Qualified for the Olympics in '94. The rules were super strict back then.
And what was your event, right? Yeah. Mark, are you aware that Batman's got a new series, Batman Cape Crusader, out?
I'm aware, but I haven't watched it yet.
Okay, it looks pretty cool, black and white noir there, at least in this. I don't know.
I think the cartoon though is actually in color.
Okay.
But it is.
Well, I think that's the way to go, though. I like the retro look,
Yeah.
I started to watch a couple of them the other night, but it was late, so I don't remember much. But it looked like a decent start. Of course, we do have a female penguin in the series.
Why? How does that?
Oh, is that the one with the female penguin? I know it looks horrid.
And not only is she a female penguin, but she is, all right, let's have a female penguin. Let's make her hot, right? No, let's not make her hot. Let's make her look like a truck driver.
Well, she looks like the she looks like the penguin with breasts and lipstick.
Exactly.
Yeah, a little bit taller and with boobs.
Yeah. I don't know what I am of the mind though that, and I haven't read a lot of the comics where they tried to make Penguin more realistic or whatever. But when I was into Batman in the '80s, the Penguin was not a character I particularly cared about. I thought that.
Yeah. What's your favorite? What's your favorite villain, Mark?
Two-Face.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I thought that was the coolest one.
Well, it's
I
really
mean, the
like
Joker's,
Jekyll and Hyde, isn't it? Where you got like
yeah.
split personality, so you got a lot to play with there.
Well, they did it in that. Was it No Country for Old Men? What was the name of that movie with Javier Bardem or whatever? Where he was a hitman, but he would flip a coin, and if it came up head to wow, multiple
Yeah,
events.
track cycling, shooting, cross country, javelin. Yeah, that
But you
wrestler's
said you.
daughter won that shot put, the women's shot put. I noticed.
Mhm.
She
But
she
there's this,
beat.
yeah.
Mhm.
But there's a terrifying point in that movie where he's got a shotgun and he's robbed this guy and he flips the coin and you don't know if he's going to kill the guy or not because it just comes down to the coin toss. And I always thought that with Two-Face was a really cool idea that you could be dead or not based on the toss of the coin.
Yeah.
He also had a very unique killing style with the little punch.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, he had the air compressor. I forgot about that. Yeah.
He would just like put it up against your head and it's like killing you like a cow, man. It's like
it was terrifying. Yeah. He was a scary dude in that movie.
It was
Shatner,
very
I muted you because you were starting to echo for some reason.
All right, well, I'll be back.
Okay. Mark, have you ever seen this? This is pre Batman Adventures number 12. I'm getting ready to send off one of those to be graded. My copy that's in there. A coloring book with it's got an images of Harley Quinn in there a couple times. And this came out prior to the comic book. And it's real thin, it's polybagged. This one's still in the polybag. As soon as I found this a few years ago, I bought one. I probably paid about $15 for this. It wasn't bad,
That's wild.
And there's also like a kid's book with a cassette. You remember they used to issue like books with cassettes. That was a pre-Harley Quinn appearance as well. And they say that might be considered the first appearance, but and then also even with the Batman Adventures number 12, they say, well, that's not in DCU continuity. So they have another book. So I don't know,
Yeah, that was definitely the animated series thing. I was getting those books, so I've got number 12 somewhere. I need to look and see if it's in good shape, I guess, because apparently those go for a lot.
Well, yeah, I mean they will be. I mean, and check the barcode. If you have the spinner rack issue like I do, was fortunate enough to get, that's like less than 10% of the run. So it's rare.
Really?
Yeah, this is a reprint that came with
a
magazine, but this was the first comic book price guide, Overstreet in 1970. Real thin. I think prices were like Fantastic Four near mint, $300 back then, things like that.
Wow.
If you could find one,
that was the thing. Yeah, you probably could have picked up Action Comics for $500 back in the early times when.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, if you could find it. That's the thing about it. It's still a rare book, less than probably 100 copies out there, and some of them are, restored, of course.
So I was going to ask you about that, Rex, because I watched a video the other day because apparently there was a lawsuit between CGC and a company that was doing restorations. Because it always baffles me when you see something, a 1940s comic and it says it's like a 9 point something. I'm like, how is that even possible if it wasn't kept in an airtight vault? But they're doing these restorations.
Yeah.
What's your opinion on if you could get a hold of, let's say, an Action Comics number 1 that had a higher grading because it had been heavily restored? What do you think about that? Do you think it's still legit?
See, then it's like, and you're probably going to keep it slabbed anyway. I mean, when you're
probably,
talking,
yeah.
When you're talking that,
vault,
I mean, I told you about my debacle with my Batman number 7.
Yes. Where the tape
and
grabbed it. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean that's potentially tens of hundreds of thousands, $100,000 worth of damage to that book. I did maybe. I doubt it was
Right.
that much, because it was the book's not. But now since then, if I still had that book, if I
Yeah.
if I
But
had made box with it.
if they're micro cutting the edge so that the edge looks
See, that's
smooth,
yeah.
or
I
they're
mean,
rebuilding the spine.
I bought, if it's to preserve the book, because some of those, I don't know. I have a Blue Beetle #6, and this is when I first discovered this. And in fact, on eBay last night, I saw another issue of some obscure book that during war rationing years in World War II, they had one staple comics.
Oh,
And
okay, because the metal was
only
hard to come
one
by.
staple right there in the middle to hold like 64 pages or more
Right.
together. So
you're going to have spines that are going to be bent
well,
on every
I mean,
one of
even
those.
when it comes to slabbing, they grade differently,
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly what their criteria is different, and maybe even with Silver Age,
Yeah.
they have a different criteria than they do for like modern comics,
Yeah.
certain allowances, I think. Like I think for any book, if you had written in there, and I always tried to avoid those, but really that was part of it back in the day on the stands. They'd usually have one copy that would have a date handwritten on it, and that was like the shipping type thing that the
Right.
distributor
Yeah.
or whatever right
yeah,
on there. And so, and some of the copies that have come down still have that, and some of them way back. I mean, I've got some back in the 50s or 60s that's got dates like that written on there. It's kind of neat
Yeah.
now, or they're stamped. They got one
Right.
of those
Yeah.
rubber stamps, and I think.
Yeah. I'm trying
Yeah, I
not
mean, would you
to
rather? It's
no,
like
go on.
anything else. Would you rather have a '67 Mustang restored or original? There's a no-brainer. You want the original
Well, I
if you
guess
can get it.
it depends if I'm going to drive it, I guess, because
Yeah.
obviously, if I could have it where it looked exactly like the old one, but it had better gas mileage, it was, it was gonna actually run, and I was gonna drive it. But then in most cases like that, I think you just use those at car shows and stuff. You don't really
Yeah, you don't put
run them down
mileage
the
on them.
street.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're not driving it back and forth to the supermarket. But
Shadow
yeah,
Hawk says, sorry, dumb question. If you qualified for men, oh, you're talking to right, okay, about his cross country and all that. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought he had a comic book question about. I'm not a big, Shadowhawk's like, do not slab. Now if you had an Action Comics #1, he sees the value in doing that.
Yeah.
I mean,
because then you stop it.
You're crazy not to.
The loss. Yeah.
If you sell you're a dumbass. You're an absolutely dumbass. If you got a Detective Comics 27 or an Action Comics #1 and you don't get it graded and you try and sell it in the raw, yes, you'll get a good price, but you will get a way lower percentage than if you just had it pressed and graded.
Well, but the thing is with those
you're
comics,
leaving too much on the table if you don't.
Yeah, it's billionaires and millionaires who own those, and they're in vaults. They never see the light of day. They're just
they don't need to see the light of day.
I was
they
say,
need in low lighting to view those things. To preserve them.
It really doesn't matter if they're slabbed or not, because they're slabbed in a giant vault that's kept sealed and closed all the time.
I get the irony of that.
Yeah, you're not. Yeah. Those are not books that you're ever going to leaf through and.
Yeah.
And,
well, I do agree with Shadowhawk that books are made to be read. But then
I agree with that too.
On the key issues, though, they're reprinted in hardbacks and paperbacks and archives and omnibuses. You can find Spider-Man 1 through whatever out there in some other form, maybe with the original coloring. I mean, the only thing you're really missing are the ads, or and they're doing these facsimiles now, so so pay a little bit and get a facsimile and read the hell out of that. Some even with, I bought a couple Batman number 5s, and for some reason they, made it, and they weren't cheap. They were like $7.99, $8 a piece, but they were full color. I don't know why they made it full, that particular one, but I said, that's pretty cool. And it's Batman number 5. I'm never going to buy it. I probably got it in archives, but I just got it because I thought, these are probably they're selling well. My local comic book store. That's the problem, though. I see these facsimiles. That was the problem when the main guy over there at DC, before he got fired, he was saying that the facsimiles were selling better than than their original material.
Their new stuff,
yes, because they had better artists, better writing, and none of this woke crap. Everybody know, and they're key issues that people want. So, when you got Neil Adams and George Perez and stuff, and now that they've died, they're searching every nook and cranny for every George Perez sketch he ever did to put it on a cover. They know what sells. It's the facsimile issues. Those will always do pretty well, even when they were $1. Remember when the facsimiles used to be just $1 at DC or Marvel, and people still loved them, and they bought them, and they became collectible in their own right. These Marvel Essentials and showcases back here, even when those go out of print, those are worth some money. People are looking for that material. And the great thing is you get to see the line artwork. It's in black and white.
That's actually pretty decent. Although some of those, though,
and it's cheap.
Some of those, they used to do a process where they would bleach the comics to get the line art, because they didn't have the original art. They didn't have the
right. Yeah, I can see where they were doing that. I did not know.
So they had a process where you would have, I think for a lot of those, what were those hardcover reprints of the very early Superman stuff that DC was doing for a while? They had gold. They were like black and with gold stripes or something on. They were hardcovers. Do you remember?
Ask me that question again, because I was kind of looking at the chat. I can't totally ignore the chat, Mark.
Well, I wish you would. No, I'm kidding, but the
bastard. Sorry, my Tourette's coming out.
The archive editions.
Yeah, the archives. Yeah, I got a new archive right here, as a matter of fact, that I want to show you. Marvel Masterworks, all winners. This is reprints 5 and 8.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I'm trying to get the other 2 volumes too, because the back of, the Jimmy Reyes cover that you'll be coloring, has the All Winners 19, which was the first time they teamed up as the All Winners, sort of Avengers-like team. We'll have, the shadow figure like that holding the world leaders there. So that's where that's taken from. I always love this cover.
What did they end up? They used to have a name. Roy Thomas had a name for when they would team up the Marvel World War II characters. What were they called? There was a.
Are you thinking All Winners, all Star Squadron for DC?
No, I'm thinking for the Marvel ones when they would have I think in the 70s, for briefly, they had them where they would have. I can't remember now what it was called, but the archive edition.
The
Invaders, that was what it was. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But for a lot of these old.
There you go, old Jack Cole goodness in Police Comics.
Yeah, I got a few of these archive editions that DC put out, but they would actually take an actual Golden Age comic and they would destroy it by bleaching it. There was a process. I can't remember. There was a name for the process, and they would bleach it to get the colors out so that they just had the black.
They'd probably digitally remove that, wouldn't they? And not have
now you can do it digitally. Yeah. I've played with it a few times because it makes sense that if you could scan it, that you could put basically remove a color, and you shouldn't see that color. Well, that was kind of the way the Anaglyph comics worked. Was, you know, the red lens would cover up the red ink, so you couldn't see it. You could see the red ink with the blue lens, but you couldn't see it with the red, and you could see the red with, or the vice versa, or however it worked out. But yeah, I would think there would be a way to do it digitally and
digitally
be more
today,
successful with it. Yeah.
Well, you know, I noticed like on some of the annuals for like Amazing Spider-Man or something, it was almost like they didn't do that, and then they just copied it in color, and so it came out like a gray tone in the archives.
Yeah, I've got some books where they would just
or the
photograph
essentials.
the comics. You know, they would photograph them in color. You could see the texture and color of the paper. I think that's actually a better way to go, because even this one isn't quite as garish. But in a lot of those these reprints that they do now, where they recolor them, the color looks terrible. It's really garish, bright colors. It doesn't look like they do a very good job of replicating what the original colors
I mean, that's
did.
even in like the facsimile issues. That's been a thing with people. The coloring is not necessarily up to snuff of the original, you know, or
Yeah,
and you do have a different paper quality, because that was all, most of that old stuff that they're reprinting was on pulp paper, and that had a different saturation. This is slick stock where the ink just right there on the surface, you know. There's a different, they need to make it, but they don't want to put the money into having the stuff recolored. A lot of recoloring jobs happened when the direct market came in. You know, they did recolor some of the classics, and those are kind of, I guess you could consider the repackaging in the direct market, you know, a little better paper and everything, was kind of almost like facsimile issues of something like the X-Men Neil Adams stuff and things like that. Well,
this is what I'm saying. This is the worst case scenario for me. So I've got this Batman Neil Adams out. It's got all of his DC Batman work.
Right. I think I've got a friend. I think John's got that. Yeah.
Neil recolored all of them with modern coloring. And
well, it looks pretty good.
It looks more modern, but when you go back and actually compare it to the
you think it was an upgrade?
To be honest, it takes me out of it sometimes. Sometimes it looks great, but other times especially if it's an issue that I've had some reprint of and I looked at it a bunch of times, and I go, well, wait a minute, the sky was orange in this one.
This is not how you remember it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. They're like I love Superman the movie, and they did a director's cut at some point, and that's the one you see more.
One of the best, Jack Adler. You know, in fact, I'm told that Neil Adams hired Jack and hired Bernie Wrightson and Mike Cluda and all those guys. He was vice president over production at DC for years, and in fact, I've heard. I haven't confirmed it. I hope to do a book on him and go up there and meet his family. He's first book that he worked on was Action Comics #1, somehow in the printing part of it, I think. But I'm not sure. I know he started officially at National Publications, DC Comics, 1952, I think. And but now he was a colorist primarily. He was the one that brought in the gray toning, and then also he was a photographer, a designer, and everything. He brought in the collage, the photo elements on covers.
Oh yeah, where they could do it in halftone or whatever,
a background or something. You know? Mm-hmm.
Now, I just watched something I had never seen before. I didn't know about it probably until about 10 or 15 years ago. But it finally popped up on YouTube. In 1969, they had a Hey, Hey, It's Fat Albert animated special.
Mm-hmm.
And it's completely different than the Filmation series that came a few years later. But interestingly, they animated the characters on video backgrounds. So like they're playing football in the streets of Philadelphia, they would go and shoot footage of the street, and then they would have the cells on top of that. But it was kind of processed in some way so that it didn't look like straight photographic backgrounds, but you could tell that's obviously where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a very psychedelic almost kind of looking thing, but it just popped up on YouTube like within the last week or something. I found it.
You know, in some cases they would do like a gray tone or like a, you know, black and white, the background, and then they would color over it. And that looked like almost laid on, almost like a watercolor effect. I don't know. It didn't look natural.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah. I thought this would be cool to do, Mark. If you could only, this question was asked on X by one person. If and the choices are here: Dracula, The Mummy, Invisible Man, Frankenstein, Wolfman, Creature of the Black Lagoon, the Lon Chaney version, the silent version of Phantom of the Opera, Bride of Frankenstein, Son of Frankenstein, Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. So a lot of Frankenstein in here. Hunchback of Notre Dame, that is the Lon Chaney Sr. And then Dracula's Daughter. If you could only keep 4 of these and had to retire all the rest for 100 years in a vault, what would you keep?
Well, first off, I'm keeping Abbott. Okay, I'm keeping Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. Okay, I'm keeping Frankenstein and Dracula. Gosh. Okay. I guess you have to keep the Bride of Frank. Well, I love.
You're not going to be able to watch the rest of them for 100 years. You're going to put them in a time capsule for a vault for 100 years. So you can
So if it's
you're never going to see these ever again. You can only pick 4 to save.
Because I'm going to say the makeup for the Mummy was incredible, but that's only like 1 or 2 shots of the movie.
I know, right?
I love the Invisible Man, but it's probably
Claude
not as
Rains,
important.
Absolutely.
I love the Wolfman so much that I think I like just from a gut feeling, I want to do that. Creature from the Black Lagoon is good, but it really isn't. It's years later than these others because it's like 53 or 54. And I mean nobody watches the silent movies. We've all seen pictures of the Phantom of the Opera and the Hunchback of Notre Dame, but I don't think very many people can say they've actually watched the silent movies. Most people agree that the Bride of Frankenstein is better than the original Frankenstein.
He's talking to.
So this is me talking it out in my head.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. My process. Son of Frankenstein, I don't really think that's that big of a deal. And Dracula's Daughter, I don't think that's bad. So I guess if it were up to me and I was going to be watching them, it would be Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman, and Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. If I was trying to do it for posterity, I'd probably swap out the Wolfman for the Bride of Frankenstein.
Okay. That
would be my
Costello. Now that was Glenn Strange, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Boris Karloff was not in that.
I'm sorry. I would agree with you. Dracula and Frankenstein for sure. And God, I mean, see, I've got to say Phantom of the Opera because that's awesome. And they actually had hand-colored.
But truthfully, have you ever watched that silent movie?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I've got multiple copies of it. I mean, I'm a big silent buff, and I've seen the John Barrymore Jekyll and Hyde, the Dr. Caligari movie, The Man Who Laughs.
Oh,
which
the
was almost
Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Yeah.
And that was Conrad Veidt.
Yes.
He was also in Casablanca with Claude Rains. I love Invisible Man. It's greatly acted. I'm the same way with you with the Mummy. I wanted to see more of the Mummy in the Mummy. It's got one of the greatest openers in makeup.
Yes. Yes.
Would have
It
been
looks
hard on
incredible.
Karloff to do even a fraction of more, in that makeup. But I wanted to see more Mummy in the Mummy. That one's always been a disappointment to me.
Yeah.
But Bride of Frankenstein, I love when he goes, has a cigar, some wine, and meets the hermit.
Yeah.
I'm not as taken with Lon Chaney's Hunchback of Notre Dame.
It is classic makeup though. But you're right. It's what's his name from the 1930s one or whatever, the one
Well, there was Charles Lawton. That's the
Charles
one I like.
Lawton. That's the
Charles
classic
Lawton,
one
and then
yeah.
Anthony Quinn did one too. But
Yeah.
now the Charles Lawton, I think, is the one that I would, if it was on here, I would definitely save.
Yeah, I
And
think
Claude
so.
Rains also did Phantom of the Opera later. I believe, wasn't it? No, it was Herb Lom that did that, but that one doesn't hold
okay.
up. That one doesn't hold
Wait,
up. I don't think.
is Herb Lom the guy from the Pink Panther movies?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yo.
Yep. It's
Yeah.
not bad. It was big Technicolor, and it was they built the opera house for that, and they've filmed multiple movies in that opera house still today.
Was that a Hammer horror or was that an American?
That was probably American. I don't think it was no,
Okay.
it might have been a Hammer. It was
Yeah,
probably the
'cause
Hammer.
they did.
It was, yeah, I think it was the Hammer version. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming he's an English actor.
I like Creature of the Black Lagoon. I really do. The design of the creature is great.
Yes, it's my favorite creature design.
I've never
It's
seen it
very
in
nice.
3D.
I have. It's pretty cool.
The second Creature movie, the sequel to Creature from the Black Lagoon, I think it's called
Yeah.
Return of the Creature of the Black Lagoon, right?
Yeah, there were 3 of
That
them.
was the
I'm not
first
sure
acting job of Clint Eastwood.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. And there was a Godzilla movie with Lee Van Cleef in there too. He played the sharpshooter. I'm gonna have to forsake maybe Bride of Frankenstein, which is a sequel, but it's great. I love when he meets the hermit because there's such feeling in that. The Frankenstein monster is loved, and it's the actor that played the hermit. I hated it when Carradine and the other guy, the hunters, check in on the hermit and bust in on him and burn the place down.
Yeah.
I got to put the Wolfman in there.
Yeah, that's my. Just sentimentally, I like the Wolf.
Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman, and I've got to go with the silent classic, Phantom of the Opera.
I honestly, I think it's unfair to put Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein in this group.
It is, and then Dracula's daughter is so obscure, and maybe even the third, son of Frankenstein, which was the last time that Boris Karloff played it. Basil Rathbone in that, and Bela Lugosi. Probably needed some more Vincent Price or Boris Karloff. Or Bela Lugosi, rather, movies in here, But Invisible Man, that's a solid movie.
That's an actually good movie, yeah.
Yeah, that's Claude Rains really shows his acting. Again, it's like I would have rather seen like Frederick Marx Jekyll and Hyde, or I like Jack Palance made for TV by Dan Curtis that did Dark Shadows, and also did that made for TV Dracula with Jack Palance. But I to me, when it comes to the compelling characters, almost like you were saying with Two-Face, the Jekyll and Hyde story is rich material to draw upon, because it's almost like schizophrenia, split personality.
Yeah.
I did not like the Spencer Tracy's 1944 version, really. It's okay, but there's no makeup. They darkened under his eyes, and that was about it. It was, compared to the Frederick March, and Frederick March, see, that still blows me away. I think it was 31, early talkie. A great transformation scenes that still hold up today. He won the Best Actor that year at the Academy Awards for a horror movie. Have you ever seen that?
I mean, I've seen clips of the actual transformation, but I've not watched the actual film.
It's worth a watch. Frederick March, he acted all the way up into the 60s. I know he was a leading guy. He also did a Cecil B. DeMille movie called The Sign of the Cross that was really good too.
Yeah.
Sort of Christian theme in Roman times, one of those early biblical epics. That was pre-code because she takes a bath in milk in that movie. Very salacious.
Oh, yes.
And once the code came in, we didn't get cleavage in a movie for 20 years. Those pre-code movies like Frankenstein that just got in right under the wire. Like where King Kong's undressing Fay Ray, that would never go a year or two later. It would have been censored out. And in later viewings on TV, it was censored out. What you got there?
Okay, so I'm gonna go back. So this is the Absolute Batman. This was going back to the coloring thing. So the Absolute Batman Year One volume is printed on, that kind of paper.
Yeah, you
so
showed this to us. Yeah.
Okay, so they've got the original, but there's a volume there. It comes with a second volume where they did put it on nice paper, and she recolored it.
Yeah, and there's certain elements of that changed, isn't there? I've seen like a bedspread that has a design on it that wasn't originally in there.
Yeah, so there's some of it is different, but a lot of it is subtle. But it doesn't look garish and weird because if you were just taking the same print, the same color inks and everything, and put them on the bright paper, it loses. She was coloring it because I'm pretty sure it was Lynn Varley who colored it for the medium that they were doing it in, and I just wish we'd see more of that because even Watchmen looks a little bit day glow nowadays when you see the reprints of it. What happened to Rex?
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
I'm just seeing me.
There we go. Yeah, I'm still here. I'm listening. I believe today's Marilyn Monroe's birthday. I think.
Oh. I was just going to say, I went to the Texas State Fair once, and they had some of her dresses and stuff, and it was kind of cool to see what the dimensions that she would have actually been. Beautiful lady.
We were looking at two-headed type things. This was a two-headed fossil. I've not seen that. It was found in Cretaceous aged cave in China. Some type of, and they've got a rendition here. That was kind of interesting that there was mutations even in the fossil record.
It's
kind of wild, isn't it? Probably didn't live long. That's why it's probably kind of small.
Yeah, probably died right away.
Yeah. Who knows? It could have been an apex predator. Two-headed. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think, how did people come up with dragons and stuff without ever coming across like dinosaur skeletons? Wouldn't you have to have come across those to have come up with the idea of
Yeah,
these
but have
giant
you
lizards.
seen like the footprints of dinosaurs and humans alike? I mean, side by side, and then in South Africa, South America, really too. You know, now some people say they're fake, but like there's different
Yeah, I assume
rocks
they're
that are,
fake.
yeah,
Yeah,
or,
because there's millions of years of time in between them. But I got to think that somehow, somewhere, like, a side of a cliff could have come down and exposed a skeleton or something. I
Mhm.
think you kind of got to know that. It seems to me really weird that you'd come up with these giant dragons in China without ever having seen something to do with the dinosaur.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
they
I
say
mean, and
no, but
but now I can see where they would see weird stuff in the oceans and think, oh, there's
true.
sea
Yeah,
demon, like Loch Ness. I mean, and who knows?
yeah,
Maybe there were holdovers. I mean, that
possibly. Yeah,
that armored up fish that they said was extinct. They found the very first one, deep sea fish, still alive back in the
yeah,
30s, and since then they found more of that fish. So.
right.
Is there still a megalodon out there? I don't know. I'd hope not, but
Yeah, and
there might
China
be.
goes way. Yeah, China goes way back past any of the Western
You got to
civilizations,
wonder
so
why some
they
of
were
this
around for a
doesn't
long time.
wash up, and some of it has, like the giant squid that was considered a myth till some
Yeah,
started washing up in more modern times. Now we know the giant squid is definitely a thing. It's just so deep sea, and um,
yeah,
actually, big blue whales and sperm whales and like that, they'll go down in the deep in the Marianas Trench, and they'll go hunting for those big things and try and eat them. And those aren't an easy takedown. They've got those hooks
no,
and barbs on their tentacles. That's why a lot of the whales are scarred up the way they are.
yeah.
But they like them a good squid meal, no matter how big they are.
Well, they like the big family size.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're going to
Yeah,
hold your breath, it's amazing. I don't know. I've watched things on that, like they compress their lungs together, and it has like mucus around it where they won't stick together. The tissues. They will squeeze their lungs down when diving deep to like 1% of its normal size and capacity. That's pretty wild. It just
yeah,
all kind of collapses on itself till they come back up for air.
yeah. I guess I never thought about that, but yeah, that would make sense that they'd have to be able to get every little oxygen molecule out of them.
Or
Their
it would
lungs
want to
to do that.
implode the pressure. Yeah.
True. Yeah, that.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
there's
yeah,
some
that.
good documentaries on that where they take you, virtually down there with computer graphics of like the lives of the whales, and I think one that I own, because these things can live for over 100 years, 150 years. They live, some of these whales can live long time. So they take you through the life of a whale that was maybe born in the, late 1800s or 1920s. I can't remember where they start him off
Yeah,
at. And then they bring you up through the different whaling, with the old harpoon or the old, and just the different dangers. And then actually they, take you around. And I think when he's older, he goes to like Antarctica, down northward, so they take you to he's born in the Atlantic, and they take you somehow goes over to the Pacific, and it's kind of shows you his life where over 100 and something years, he circumvents the world really at different
yeah.
times in his life. It's kind of interesting the way they do it. Um, what a,
I
what a
guess
what
if you got 150 years, you can make the trip. Yeah.
Well, look at some of these tortoises, man. They're ancient.
Oh
They could be
yeah,
200
yeah.
years old. They're huge.
Right, because I think there are some that would have been like in captivity that have gone through the entire 20th century and
Oh, they
into the
got pictures
21st
of them
century.
when they were in the late 1800s. Pictures
Yeah,
with the same turtle. Yeah,
right. Yeah,
that's wild,
yeah.
isn't it?
It is. It is.
Mm-hmm.
It does drive home how short a time we have. Because I'll tell you this,
Yeah.
and I'm sure you're doing
There's some
the same
sharks
thing
up there in Iceland that are like 200 years old. They reckon, or more.
Wow.
Big. Have you seen those big? I don't know if they're called great whites, but they're huge sharks, and they're up around Iceland, and they've got some old sharks up there, in their waters. They're
No,
over
I've
200
not seen
years
that.
old. I guess they kind of the rows of teeth. I'm not sure exactly how they count the age of a shark.
Yeah, I don't
But,
know how you would figure it out.
yeah. But I remember a couple years ago when I first saw that on the internet that I was like, wow, I didn't realize that a shark that has no bones because they're invertebrate. I mean, their teeth are the only thing that are left when one dies, really. Could reach that great an age to be over 200 years old. Think about that. That's like the signing of the Declaration of the Independence almost.
Right. Well, I think there's some kind of jellyfish that's immortal, and it essentially goes into different life cycles based on what's going on, but it can live forever.
Well, they're discovering new species all the time on land, and we were talking about that the other day. That just a few years ago, I remember they discovered like 10 or 20 different species on the land in Laos. There was a spider the size of a dinner plate, and a few other things that they found out. But now in the oceans, I'm seeing that all the time. That this is a new species of shark. This is a new species of jellyfish or box jellyfish that we've never seen before. I mean, there's stuff, we know more about the moon supposedly than we do the oceans.
Yeah, because there's not much to know about the moon. Yeah. But yeah, I think they say they'll have these statistics about how many different species go extinct every year or whatever. And we just don't know about the vast majority of them.
Yeah. Well, Outbreak was kind of like a movie, wasn't that? Wasn't that Dustin Hoffman, or was it? Or am I thinking of the? Maybe I'm thinking of the one with Sean Connery that was in it. It was in a rainforest, and I think the premise was he discovered cancer, a cure for cancer.
Oh yeah. And he had the ponytail.
Yeah, that was Sean Connery, wasn't it? In that movie.
Yeah, I don't remember what that was called, but I think it was about the fact that these different plants and flowers or whatever, you never know what you can find with these things. And it was definitely
I mean, there's so many species that'll come and go before we even discover them, and that's amazing that we're at this point in history and we're still discovering 10s, 20s, 30s, hundreds of variety of different species of plants and animals that we didn't even know existed last year,
Right.
That's amazing to me that we're here in 2024. We think we know it all, and we've not even discovered all the plants and animals that God's put on this planet yet.
No, we don't have
centuries of being on the planet.
Right. We don't have enough people working on that, but but I mean, that's the thing. You look at and you find out that there's like a ridiculously, there's tens of thousands of different species of frogs or something like that. And you're going, how can there be that? How could there be that many? But
but there are. I mean, there's like the blue dart frogs and the red. I mean, it's quite varied in color. And you go to Texas, as you know, you got the horny toad that bleeds from its eyes, which is more lizard-like than it is toad.
Yeah.
But those things are always kind of freaky. You catch them and they start bleeding from their eyes. As a defense mechanism. Yeah.
I was never cool with picking up frogs.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the wise tale is you'll get warts, right?
Well, but there was just something about frogs. Like I was okay with seeing a frog. I wasn't afraid of the frog. but I was creeped out by actually picking it up and it moving around.
Something I don't see much, and I wonder if the pesticides are different things that we do, are making a difference. And then I don't think bugs, when I was a kid, we go on a trip and bugs would just hit the windshield and cover the windshield.
Oh,
I don't
yeah,
see,
yeah.
bugs have definitely changed, but now I don't see as many tree frogs. But now when I went down Florida, my God. I mean, I stopped at a store and they had a little shed, and on the side of it was covered in tree frogs. And some of those were that big, Mark, down there in Florida.
Oh, goodness.
Tree frogs.
Now,
They were huge.
I grew up for a while on Homestead Air Force Base down in Southern Florida. And I do remember that the day after it would rain, there would be flat frogs all over the roads because they would just come out in droves, I guess, with the rain and get run over. And you would just see flat frogs, little dead flat frogs everywhere. Okay, some more show and tell. I found this in a drawer when I was grabbing this stuff. One of the few things I have still left over from my childhood.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It was Battlestar Galactica.
Oh, yeah.
It does not work anymore.
Yeah.
But you had the little switch here, and they would come down 1, 2, or 3 at a time, little cool. Cylons. Yeah. And you had the fire button, and you would select the 3 different things and go. But but this is around the same time they were coming out with like the football games and all.
I didn't have that, but I had the football. We had the basketball, and we would play that on the way to games and stuff. It used to drive the coach crazy, especially if we lost. They're like, "Put those games on, you're ready to be in the game." Hey, Burkholder.
But yeah,
I mean, everybody had their game, and they were that's the whole way to the game. We're in the bus. Yeah. And if we weren't trying to tip the bus, and we almost did more than a few times, Mark, till we just, I mean, we almost tipped it over more than once. And it's amazing that he just didn't hang us to the yard arms for that. And eventually we stopped it because it was pretty scary. We just almost tipped the bus over a few times.
Yeah, that's kind of really dumb.
Where you all go to one side and tip the bus over when he's in a curve. That must have been nerve-wracking for the driver, which usually it was the coach driving. So
especially
he probably run our ass off, and probably did after the next day in practice.
Yeah, especially since if it went over, he'd probably be the only one wearing a seatbelt that might have survived it.
That's true.
You guys will be, you guys will be flying every which way. No, thankfully I did not get involved in anything where we tried to do that. But yeah, that would be very annoying. I think I'm amazed that he put up with it.
Well, there was I am too, and eventually we cut it out, but and he let us play our games, but he was a little frustrated. I remember a time or two, and we had to put him up, they
were the bane of teachers because they were suddenly small enough, these things that you could bring into class, and they were constantly getting taken away by
a few years ago they started reissuing those old things. I bought one of the football ones at Hobby Lobby, and it wasn't cheap. It was like $30, but I gave it to my brother for Christmas, because I try and relive our at Christmas time, our memories,
our childhood.
And that was a lot of fun. I did like playing that little simple football game. And I wasn't even a football or sports guy,
Yeah. I could probably fix this because the only
that's
thing
like a C battery there. Yeah.
No, it's 9-volt battery.
Oh,
and remember it had the 2 things that would plug into the 9-volt, and one of them fell off. One of the little connectors fell off.
Yeah, you could probably
so if I just replace that with one, I could probably get it to work again because there was nothing wrong with it other than that.
Yeah. You could probably go. I would say go to Radio Shack, but they're kind of gone.
Radio Shack is where the things went. It's gone.
Yeah, and they also had like radio control cars and stuff like that at Radio Shack. I remember.
Oh, I always wanted one of those. Even though if you ever got anything close to that, you'd play with them like 2 times, and then it was kind of
Yeah.
boring. It was like, it was so neat to have it at first, but then it didn't have playability beyond especially like the thing I wanted more than anything when I was a kid was those racetracks they had, with the slot cars that would just go around the racetrack or whatever. And I guess they must have been fairly expensive because my parents never got me one, but I always wanted one of those. But I'm sure that they were, after a little while it was.
And my brother had an
early.
version. I mean, the controller was like one button. I think there was a
it was just a button.
Yeah, it was one button, and it would look like a little heart-shaped controller, and that was it. Very early version of those, tracks and stuff. And I guess because there was 2 of us, that we could both appreciate it and play it.
Yeah, see, you had that, so you could have some competition.
Yeah. We did.
I had a little sister, and she just would lose every time, and she wasn't interested in playing. So,
You remember Fridays? Do you remember with Fridays? It was kind of like Saturday Night Live or SCTV.
Oh yeah. Kramer
had Michael Richards, and he was the kid with the Atom Bomb T-shirt outside, and he was like take his sister's Barbie, and she'd come to the window and where my Barbie? I don't know where it is. It's like,
Yeah, I think I only saw it a couple times, but I don't think it was on for very long.
No, it wasn't. It was on, I don't know, each season or so. I loved SCTV. With John Candy.
Yeah, SCTV was good. I didn't see a lot of that until later.
Yeah.
But I did watch Saturday Night Live. That was a big deal.
You can watch that all on YouTube now. They've got and probably SCTV or Saturday Night Live too. But
that's like
Fridays before he did Kramer on Seinfeld.
Yeah.
I never watched that, but Michael Richards was one of those that I thought he could do improv like Mork,
Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Was it Joe Flaherty who he just died?
He just passed away. Yeah, Joe Flaherty. Yeah.
Who did Count Floyd? I thought Count Floyd was the funniest thing ever.
Scary kids,
no,
it's not.
Boy, it's scary. The movie was not scary.
John Candy doing the 3D.
Yeah. Yeah, but he'd have the 3D glasses. He's going, boy, that's really realistic.
They did a skit where they went to hell, and it was like Caesar or somebody goes to hell. He's in hell, and he's like, seize her. And John Candy and the other guys there going, sure as we sees her. She's standing right there.
Yeah.
and Eugene Levy, who's really made a career in the movies playing fathers and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, he did have
eyebrows, curly hair.
Yeah, he had a career resurgence big time.
He played that Jewish guy, Sid Dithers, that was a little cross-eyed or whatever. And he's like, she's hooking, and I don't mean a rug.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, Bob and Doug McKenzie were. I actually have the McFarlane action figures of Bob and Doug. It's a whole set that has the backdrop. They have the chairs and the little coffee table. It comes with a ton of tiny little beer bottles and donuts and crullers and stuff.
Strange Brew. That was a movie.
Strange Brew was great. Yeah,
Maxwell Shadow was the villain or whatever.
I even got.
That wasn't a very good movie. I had the album. Did you ever have the album?
I had the album. I also had their other album that was just like routines and stuff. It was the one that had Geddy Lee with the Takeoff to the Great White North.
Take off. It's a beauty way to go. Okay.
Yeah. And it's the whole time you go, this is me on the guitar. That's not you, man. You're lying. I'm going, no. It's me. It's me on the guitar.
If I wasn't doing Bob and Doug McKenzie, because I was a kind of class clown, but I would watch that for routines and stuff. And Mork and Mindy, when it first came out with Robin Williams and his improv, I was rolling on the carpet. I thought it was so funny. Never seen that before. He could do improv like nobody. And and then I saw the same thing in Michael Richards, but his career never really took off till Kramer.
Right.
But now I know, first noticed.
Well, you know what? I was going to say he really stood out in that Weird Al Yankovic movie, UHF. Remember, he played Was it
And
Sidney,
he also
the wet
did
his
another
mop or
movie. He
whatever?
had a bit part
The
in Young
Stanley or
Doctors
something?
in Love at that around that
Okay.
same time. But it never really, again, it just really till he got Kramer, his career
Right.
just never. And I think that's about all you can say about him. And some people remember him in Fridays, but I
Yeah.
loved him as the atom bomb kid. In the background. Oh, it's a mere flesh wound. No, we'll have to amputate. It cuts his leg off, with some scissors or something. And then he did a character called Dick, where he's like a woolly showing his chest and got his gold chains, and he's like, hey, oh, cool,
Yeah. Yeah.
People,
Yeah. I would
I
be.
love to go to. They probably thought I was crazy in school, but that's I do the routines,
Yeah.
in school.
I saw a bunch of the classic SNLs when I was a kid, but I really, by the time I was like junior high and like wanting to watch it religiously,
Yeah.
I ended up in the Joe Piscopo years.
Yeah,
So
probably after Eddie Murphy and even the second wave came through. Charles
no,
Rocket
there was
probably there.
yeah, Charlie Rocket. Because I was going to bring that up. Because I read a book. I didn't know it at the time, but that Charlie Rocket was supposed to be the star. He thought he was the big deal. I think he was even sleeping with the lady who was the new showrunner.
Yeah.
And they told him that it was a little short. He needed to vamp for a couple of seconds before the end of the episode, and he used the F word. And it went out live on the East Coast, and that was it for his career. The guy ended up. I remember he played Bruce.
Did
Willis's
they fire
brother.
him over that?
They fired him over. He lost his.
Okay.
Yeah, he went from being like he was going to be the big star to he was gone. But he was on Moonlighting. He played Bruce Willis's brother.
Yeah.
And then he committed suicide. They found him, I think, in like a wheat field or something. He just walked out and shot himself. But the book that I was reading about SNL was making out like he really was. He thought he was going to be the new Chevy Chase. He was going to be the big deal. And he made that one. And they said, you can see the look on his face when he realizes what he's done. And it's just that, oh, no crap, I've done it. It's over with. And but I don't think it aired in the. I think they had a delay or something, so I don't think it aired on the West Coast.
Yeah,
but yeah,
usually they've got like a 12-second delay with that type of stuff or through radio, But
yeah,
maybe not back then. I don't know,
Yeah,
always good to have a slight delay so you can.
Yeah, it's like it's like Vamp, and he goes. You're going like, okay, well, that's it. He was not a Robin Williams. He clearly.
No, he wasn't. I don't know that he would have even been a Chevy Chase.
I don't think he would have been. That first season, I think Joe Piscopo, Tim Kazurinsky.
He kind of wound up as the news guy on there, didn't he?
Yeah. Like I said, he thought he was the Chevy Chase guy, but I think they were just like three of them that survived to the next year. And then they brought in Eddie Murphy. So when I was in junior high, it was the height of the Joe Piscopo, Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, Joe Piscopo. I'm from Jersey. Are you from Jersey?
Yeah.
Two wild, you remember crazy guys.
Joe's big thing was the sports announcer, where he would just say one word at a time and there would be funny things he would do during the news. And then he would do like Frank Sinatra.
The wild and crazy guys with Steve Martin with the big hat, or was that Dan?
No, that was Dan Aykroyd.
Okay,
yeah, they were the two wild and crazy guys from Czechoslovakia. Yeah. Steve Martin was also one of the ones who, when I was coming up, was just like a superstar.
Yeah, he's a talent. He's gotten better over age, I mean, as far as, his acting range, he's really done some pretty good
yeah. But
I love him in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles with John Candy. My favorite Thanksgiving movie, I guess.
I remember, though, he did a comedy special like probably around 79,
Is that the one
80,
where he
somewhere in there.
performed King Tut?
Well, he did that on SNL, but
Okay.
he had a skit where he was a sleazy used car salesman hooked up to a lie detector that would like shock him if he told lies. And he was supposed to be
Okay.
doing a car commercial.
No,
It was supposed to prove
it's kind of like the Jim Carrey movie Liar, Liar, but with a different twist.
which would have been better with Steve Martin, I think.
Yeah.
Because Jim Carrey was too nice of a guy, but I think they had him like electrodes on him or whatever.
Oh
And he
yeah,
would,
I think I've seen
and
that.
he
Yeah.
would, and he would ask him. He says, "This brand new, this really old car." And I remember as a kid almost dying laughing so hard. I found it on YouTube a couple years ago. I
Now,
went
speaking
looking,
of
and
Jim Carrey,
it wasn't near as funny as I remember.
I love when Jim Carrey does his rewind, thing. And
Oh
like,
yeah,
man, that is brilliance.
Yes,
I mean, you might practice something like that, but man, he was just like seamless. It's I don't know how many takes, but it's like, wow, that's just, I've never seen anything like that. That's so funny.
Yeah. You remember when he came along, he would do impressions and he would change the shape of his face.
Oh yeah.
It was the most bizarre thing to see him just, he would completely change the shape of his face. And then, but my feeling on Liar Liar always was that Jim Carrey was too nice of a guy to play that role. If that had
my
been
favorite
Steve Martin,
line from the movie,
it would have been funny.
He gets into the elevator, I think, with the girl or something or whatever. Anyway, they get done having sex, right? And she goes, so how was it? And she said, I've had better. And slap.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's good. He's in court and he's like, doing the facial contortions.
Oh, well, that's In Living Color. Did you watch In Living Color?
I missed all that, really. Yeah.
Oh, okay. In Living Color was
I've seen some of it since then, kind of like his fireman routine.
Yeah, that was frightening.
Yeah, it was kind of frightening. Yeah.
But there was some really funny. Of course, I don't think they could show most of it because In Living Color really was pushing the boundaries. With
great comedy has. I mean, that Saturday Night Live did too. I mean, that's I think the original crew when it was hot, fresh, and whatnot, and they even did a Marvel team up where Saturday Night Live was Spider-Man. I don't know if I read that one or not, but I saw that when it was on the stands. I was like, crap,
They actually
today it's probably pretty cool.
Yeah, they actually because I want to say Chris Claremont wrote it. Because it was like one of those deals where I don't remember what the idea was. Maybe even came from Saturday Night Live or something. But I remember they talked to somebody on the phone and then actually went there and spent like the whole week or a couple of days. I don't know
why I couldn't loosen up, Mark. I mean, I took the Marvel. I see it now. I see, it's a commercial thing. You got the toy line like Micronauts and ROM and stuff. And a lot of those were great runs with great artists, but I would pass them up because it was toy related. I just would, even with Michael Golden artwork. Now, when they generally like Godzilla, that was toy oriented along with Shogun Warriors and stuff. But now when they put the Fantastic Four, the Avengers in there, I get an issue.
Right. That was the
first ROM I got had Fantastic Four, and I started reading some of it. It just looks so good, and it read good. I started collecting, some of the stuff. But
I know you were.
I always hated. I always took the Marvel Universe very seriously, or the DC Universe, and I hated when they commercialized it and put Doctor Who or like Saturday Night Live and Marvel team up. I was like, what is this doing here? I'm not buying that. I hated the first What If issue. I didn't understand it. I was like, saw that and I said, that is stupid. But then I got some of the later issues, read them and said, this is a pretty neat concept,
Yeah, I like that idea. But
I've got it in my collection now. That's for sure. Yeah.
I wish I hadn't had that bias though, because I do remember when the first G.I. Joe comic came out, and I was like, it's a toy thing. I don't care. I wish I'd picked up some of those.
That was one that I actually bought, and was
did
picked
you?
up. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I remember looking at it, and because
I remember they touted number one, kind of like Aztec Ace. That was the first time I'd ever heard of Baxter paper. And then I know with DNA agents, they said Mondo paper. They started in the direct market. They were going, oh, it's put on better paper and stuff. But
it wasn't Mondo, it's Mando.
That's not a new thing. Even in the 40s and 50s, Dales was saying better paper, better content for your children. They were always, or Disney, they put the little things on the covers saying these comics are good reading for your kids. They were really trying to capture the child parent market,
Yeah. Being the anti EC. But I do remember though, because I know you weren't a DC guy, but they did a thing when they introduced Master of the
I say
Universe.
that. I mean, I preferred Marvel, but I bought a lot of DC. I did.
Yeah. Do you remember when they put that 16-page insert in every DC comic that came out that month?
Mm-hmm.
No, when they did, it was Masters of the Universe. It was He-Man and Superman.
Yep. I've got that one. First appearance in comics, He-Man.
Yeah,
that's an undervalued book, I think.
Well, but it was, but they had it in every regular issue. It was a 16-page insert.
They did Iraq Son of Thunder that way. They did Atari Force that way with Garcia Lopez artwork. That was a good book.
Yeah,
and they also did the New Teen Titans that way. Their first appearance is that 16-pager in DC Comics Presents number 26, I believe.
Right, but
I think that's the only one I don't have. I've got a couple number ones and tried to replace all those Teen Titans books that had that great George Perez, but I'm not. In fact, the very first comic book convention I went to, 1983, I went there and bought up every, I want to say, DC Comics Presents number 26. I bought 7 copies. There wasn't anybody on the floor that had a copy. And I paid from little less than like $4 up to $14 for a copy back then, but I bought 7 copies of it.
Who was the guest star?
Well, I mean, it was first appearance of New Teen Titans in the 16-page.
Oh,
yeah. I bought every copy as an investment that year in 93. It had been out. Well, I think that came out in 79, so it'd been out a few years. But I said I'm gonna get this before it goes up because this is a good run, and it was.
But the Masters of the Universe was in every DC comic that came out that month. So every comic I had that 16-page thing. I was not impressed by it.
Yeah, I kind of like that, a mini comic within the comic.
Yeah, but it was an ad for toys, and I was at the age that I was like, toys. I don't want anything.
Yeah, I didn't like the the commercialization, the toy thing either. I never did, but I didn't think it had a place. It broke the fourth wall. I guess that's why. And and Howard the Duck, what the fuck?
I know you hate Howard the Duck.
I'm sorry. I hate to hate on the Duck, and I've actually got some Howard the Ducks. I've actually got some Howard the Duck magazines that I bought since then. I've even bought Archie's.
Yeah,
I mean that's
when I was a kid. Yeah,
well, a lot of people did. I mean, like Rick from Cross Comics, it was Archie Comics that got him reading comics. So
yeah, I loved Archie. I loved Richie Rich. And I love the little Archie
Hot
comics.
Stuff.
They were really funny. Hot stuff.
Yeah.
I wasn't so much into the Casper and the Little Devil ones weren't quite as good. I loved Richie Rich because they were just, it was almost a sci-fi comic because he would have all these machines, and obviously he was ridiculously wealthy. And,
Archie, Betty, Veronica, and Jughead, they're in those little digests in the groceries. That's about the only comics you can find on a consistent basis. A few years back, I got their 600th issue in digest form, and I said, I'm picking that up. I picked up 2, one for me and one for Elsie.
There was an artist. I think it's either Henry Lucy or Harry Lucy. I think it's Harry Lucy was an Archie artist, and every time I can come across one of his stories, I just marvel at it. His physical comedy was incredible. These
and
these
Joe
big
Orlando
takes and
did a
these
lot
things.
with Archie.
Joe Orlando
What
did.
was cool was when they had the Archie series, which they always kind of
Yeah.
did with the Fly and Sergeant Strong and some of the superheroes.
Yeah, they would have
and they actually
superhero
did
comics.
that in an Archie series with Red Circle characters
Yeah.
or the old MLJ characters, but they also did Ninja Turtles and they did Zen the Intergalactic Ninja.
Right. There was a point where Archie was the only kids comics left because Harvey went out of business.
Yeah.
And you could only get but
Archie
I do
going
remember
strong
though
since 1939 in Pep Comics.
Yeah.
A long time.
And like I said, some of those 50s ones that I've seen are laugh out loud funny. They were really, and there was an Archie radio show.
Well, on eBay you find, I found this one guy that he was selling all these Archies from like the Silver Age and the 70s and a few of the 80s series, and I got the giants, the ones that were real thick, a buck a piece. A buck a piece. I bought a bunch of Archies. Now I've got a pretty good Archie collection because I got them while they were cheap. They're worth more than that now, and actually Archie's kind of heated up a little bit over the years. And talking about Harvey, I got on a couple of years ago. I got on to this one guy. He had Harvey, what he was calling file copies that came out of their warehouse. These things are near mint back in the 60s and 70s. I mean, I've got a nice high grade Archie, and probably the most I paid for one was a Casper. He had a Casper horse, and I forget the horse or whatever it was called.
Oh, that's right. He did. There was a horse. Yeah.
And he had his own series where there was a black sensitive cover, and I paid like $42 or something for that. But high grade in black, you just can't find that. Hot stuffs. I've got some high grade late 60s hot stuffs, that are just
and
impeccable.
There were like 20 different. There were 20 different Richie Rich comics, because there would be like Billion Dollar Tales or Richie Rich Vault of Mystery. There were just an enormous number of these things.
And you remember in the 80s he had his own cartoon, and then Macaulay Culkin did the movie.
Yeah, all of those sucked. The cartoon was terrible.
Yeah.
I was very disappointed because I loved Richie Rich, and I was like, this isn't Richie Rich. It was awful. I think Hanna-Barbera did the cartoon.
Well, I will say this.
They aged him up. And
you can look at some of the older, 70s and maybe even 60s. Richie Rich, I'm not sure when Richie Rich came out, to tell you the truth. Maybe early 70s or was it late 60s?
I would say probably mid 60s, maybe Richie Rich started.
Really? He goes back that far? Okay.
I would think so.
But I would say Richie Rich had a big screen TV before anybody.
Yes.
He really did. On some of those covers, he had like Richie Rich big screen TV.
Yeah, that was the dream, was that you had Richie Rich you basically could have anything. I'm trying to see if I can find the Wikipedia to see.
That was kind of Harlan Ellison's story, right? On Star Trek, except you could go into the TV, into history. It was a big screen TV, really. A little oddly shaped, but yeah.
Why is it? I'm looking at Wikipedia and they show the movie.
And I remember a special with Barbara Walters, Mark, with it wasn't Steve Jobs. It's the guy over Microsoft.
Bill Gates.
Yeah, Bill Gates. Bill Gates was showing off his brand new $50 million house to Barbara Walters. They made a whole special out of it. And he had the very first prototype of the big screen TV. It was probably about a 50-inch and flat screen TV up against the wall. And everybody was, ooh, ah. And that was like, that special came out like 10 years before it was ever available to the public.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like,
amazing.
well, that's like,
and he also had where he could flip a switch and his windows could go from clear to frosted. If you added electricity to it, which was pretty cool.
Yeah, but yeah, Japan has like 8K TVs now. So they're rich people have what we're going to get, like you said, 10 years later. So I just looked it up. Richie Rich's first appearance was in Little Dot #1 in September of 1953. So
I should have known that because I just saw Little Dot #2 they were talking about sold for. And that was like his second appearance. Yeah. Yeah.
He didn't get his own title until 1960, though.
Okay.
But yeah, there were just a billion of those.
Well, Harvey's done very well. I mean, they did very well with a lot of their.
Oh yeah, it's astonishing to me that they died out. I would be curious to know what happened. I assume
I didn't know that Al Hatley that worked for them. He got Spire Christian Comics, and that's why there was some crossovers of characters into those because he worked for both companies.
Yeah,
and he got them to let Spire, because there's Spire Archie variants from the 70s that was kind of like Christian Comics, but they're Spire comics. But it has Archie characters in there and Archie himself and Betty and Veronica and Jughead and stuff. And I'm like, how do they do this? It was all Al Hartley. He worked for both of them and got them to cross over.
What was the Marvel? Remember Marvel tried to put out a line of kids comics in the 80s, right around the time of New Universe. Star Comics. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They had the Ewoks. They had the Muppet Babies.
Yeah. Yeah, but they were clearly trying to take the Harvey thing, but those flopped as far as I knew. I don't.
Yeah. Now some of them are collectible, Now.
Yeah, but I don't think they lasted very long.
They didn't last very long. No, I mean, if it's out there, Marvel's tried it at one time.
Yeah,
they tried.
It lasted.
Yeah, they had an interesting premise. Sort of a universe without. The new universe that they tried in the 80s. But the whole premise was that nobody had superpowers or whatever. But I mean, but the ones that really sold was like DP7 and Star Brand where they did have superpowers.
Right. Yeah.
So they didn't stick to their own premise really.
There was a very awkward period where they were giving, they were redesigning the superhero costumes at Marvel, and they thought everybody should have like parachute pants and these weird, and I just remember
is that when they had Bill is it Ben O'Reilly with all the pouches and as the Scarlet Spider?
Probably, and I remember
that was Tom Lyle, and I kind of like that costume with the hoodie.
Now, well, I'm thinking mostly what I would see John Romita Jr. doing at the time when he was on X-Men and that kind of stuff, where he was saying this is more of a modern 80s look for these characters, and I remember thinking these look crap. It was around the time they gave Magneto the sleeveless outfit. Remember he had that sleeveless outfit with the big hem. And he had long hair.
Yeah, I didn't like that. Yeah.
When I think of New Universe, that's what I think of is that they looked in trying to be hip and trendy or whatever. They just looked dumb to me.
Again, if Marvel, Marvel's tried it, it's at one point or another. And what gets me is how incestuous they are with DC, Marvel will do Marvel Zombies, and then you have Blackest Night over at DC. You know,
Right.
you'll have Secret Wars over there, and then you'll have what was the
Crisis on Infinite Earths.
yeah, you had that, but you also I guess that's more around the time there, but you had the later when they were moving their headquarters from New York to LA, they had that was it Contingent? What was it? Where they did the split covers and whatnot. So when they were moving out to LA, it was it was like in
That
all
was
the
probably after my
comics.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. I probably
They
got one down here. There's one really neat one that's got a Plastic Man and Swamp Thing. You don't get to see that very often.
was it Legends? Was that the one that Byrne did after he came over to DC?
Yeah,
And
that's Legends after Crisis. I think that was their next big thing after Crisis.
right.
Immediately. Yeah.
And remember, he made a character that looked like Jim Shooter. That was supposed to be like the Beyonder. Ah,
Yeah.
Tarzan. I was thinking about that not long ago. Remember the Ron Eli show? The Tarzan
First
show
appearance
with
of
Ron Eli?
Thunder Bunny. Have I shown you that? I love Thunder
Yes,
Bunny.
I think you have, because I think we talked about who was the continuity character, Bucky O'Hare.
Yeah, but he did look a lot like Bucky O'Hare. That was Michael Golden artwork. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it says that. See, I remember Peter Porker, that being an issue of What If, but it's saying that Star Comics had Peter Porker, the Spectacular Spider-Ham, as one of their main titles. That and Heathcliff, Droids and Ewoks.
Yeah, and they also did these covers like this that were the 25th anniversary in '86.
I do remember that. Yeah,
and the Muppets. They did an Ewoks and a Muppets, you know. So I've got John Dillard. He's doing all my Momentum characters like this framing.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And then we'll have different homages like this. This will probably be the Bystander because he has a fedora. Yeah. I don't know.
You remember when Justice League would have like team ups with the crossovers with JSA, and they would have the faces down one side of the face, and then
the roll call.
Captain Carrot and his Amazing Zoo Crew had the Just a Lot of Animals.
See, I liked Captain Carrot and his Amazing Zoo Crew, but Shadowhawk doesn't like it. But I did read it for a while. I loved it.
But remember, they did the crossover with the Just a Lot of Animals, and they had like Super Squirrel and
their 16-pager was in Teen Titans. Very
That's
first,
true.
I think number 17. First appearance of Captain Carrot and his Amazing Zoo Crew was in Teen Titans.
I think there was another case where it was in multiple comics because I remember seeing
Could have
that.
been.
Yeah.
All right.
But
that's fine.
But I thought the Just a Lot of Animals was cooler than Captain Carrot. I was disappointed when that was just a one-off. Yes.
I got some of these down the other day. I don't know if you were watching, but I got some of my digest.
Okay.
My father made this rack for me, the shelving, and this is my brother's. I kind of inherited it, and you can never have enough shelving. But now I remember when he was making these, he put the trim on mine and didn't on his, so that's why it looks different. But now I had one whole shelf of nothing but these digests. It was all the library, And
I remember when they first came out, because I had the Superman, that one I had, and I also had one of the Blue Ribbon digests for whatever the year was.
Okay, all right.
Because I
this
remember
is how I learned my DC history on stuff.
Oh, it was in the.
Yeah. I mean, I would get those year's best, and it would have like some War or Jonah Hex and titles I normally wouldn't pick up, but I got a little bit of everything,
Yeah, I did. It did have a mix of them.
And the last 2 years of Adventure Comics before they canceled it were digest. I've got all those.
Yeah.
Nice Gil Kane cover there. And 100 pages, you get a lot. Most of it would be reprinted material, but some of it would be, original.
Well, you remember they had those
There's the
paperbacks. They would be in black and white, but they
Blue
would have the
Ribbon.
panels cut up. Yeah.
And this one survived my fire because I had it in my art studio. This is originally one that I bought very early on because they start out at 95 cents. Now this is $1.25. But
Okay. Metal Man.
I had
yeah.
this for like reference because I had a character that was similar to her. Platinum.
Yeah, I've always wanted to read the Metal Men, but I've never gone and gotten.
And this is one I had to get. This was my first exposure to the 60s Inferior 5.
Yeah, I'd love to read those too.
Yeah, Secret Origins Superheroes. Yep.
Ah, that's cool.
Yeah, these are great, man. I love the little digest. Shadowhawk gave me a couple of them. I've got a Flash and something else around here too. I don't have a lot of them, not like I used to, but you know.
Yeah, I was doing. Looks like I had 3 of them. Let me see if I can grab those. I had them in my.
I've got the Teen
closet
Titan
full of
one
books
somewhere.
But I got the Superman one.
There you go. Yeah. And that was an early one because it was 95 cents.
That was the first one I think they did, and then I had this Superman meets Luthor.
Yeah, that's Ross Andrew cover.
It says Best of DC number 27 on it.
Yeah, and big, thick little things. A lot of reading.
Yeah. See, this was number 25.
Yeah, I had that one for sure. I don't know about that other one with Luthor.
But then I also had this World's Finest, and they were in black and white, and they put the panels across the thing.
I think wait, hold that up again. I think that's a Neil Adams cover, isn't it?
No, it's Kurt Swan.
Is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Then I had this one.
Oh, I had that one. I had that one. Yes. I totally forgot about that one. Nice pink magenta, and I had that too. Yeah.
Yeah, with the Dave Cockrum painted cover. And it did the giant size X-Men, and then in the back it did one of the Psy stories, one of the Byrne and Austin stories.
Yeah, so cool. Yeah,
Psy Ward, that was it. Yeah, but that cover I don't think I'd ever seen a painted cover before. Seeing this.
Bob Larkin back in the day did a bunch of those type of things. That was really cool. You know, you didn't get to see, or the Hillebrand brothers. You didn't get to see very many painted covers though.
Right. But yeah, these were great. It was great to have a little book one because they were, I don't know, they were sturdier than a comic.
I used to go to Walden Books and get those novelizations or get the reprints of the old Doctor Strange and things like that. That's how I fell in love with some of that older Silver Age stuff that was before my time.
Yeah. That was I don't know. That was part of the fascination to me when I was reading comics as a kid, was the fact that there were decades of history. And I feel like you lose that when you reboot every 5 seconds, because
you do.
That there was something magical about, that little asterisk that said see issue number 14, the editor had a little note
or
there
series
like
5.
There was and there was something like there was more back in the history of it. It wasn't just something that was right now. That it had been alive for a long time, and it was you could just wonder about what that stuff was. And when you take away all that magic, that's the thing I don't like about things nowadays. I think young people hate mysteries, and so you're constantly seeing, they can't do a Star Wars comic that's about something new. It's find out how Han Solo got his boots. I don't care how he got his boots. And I don't want to know I don't want to know everything. Like, I rejected completely. I did not read any of the Wolverine origin stuff.
That's what I said about Wolverine's origin. You don't have to tell his origin. He's better as a man of mystery. You waited 20 years to tell his origin. You don't need that.
Yeah.
In fact, he's more interesting if you don't nail it down.
Yeah. And the Star Wars prequels, the Clone Wars was just this mystery to me and my friends. We were talking about, they mentioned it the one time and you're going like, wow, what was the Clone Wars? And in our heads, it was this big giant thing. once you do it, it's like, oh, okay. So
Yeah.
the stormtroopers are clones. Well, it can't be as cool as what you can imagine. And that was one of the thing with Wolverine. I didn't want to know Wolverine's origin. I still don't want to know Wolverine's origin. Because nothing will ever meet up to
spoilers.
Well, I'm aware of it to a little bit of a point, but I never read them, and I even didn't watch that movie that they did.
And what's up?
I just don't want to.
Now we've got old man Logan, we got old man Booster Gold, we got old man, old man Blue Beetle. Hell, I don't know. It's like I can't. It's like going to the movies and everything's a remake. And sometimes they hit it good, and it holds up, and sometimes it's just pitiful. Most of the time it's pitiful. So, I think you don't need to take the mystery out of certain characters, because there was always, that was part of the fun, right? There for a while it was like, is Sabretooth his father, or is it his brother, or there was all kinds of theories, where Logan came from,
right?
And they couldn't just do Origins 1. Now it's Origins 2.
Right, of course.
And there for a while they killed him, right? They made him like encased in adamantium. Well, and I still don't know how he got out of that, but the death, and they had a build up, right? The death of Wolverine for months. It's a money grab, It
is. It was okay when
there you go, man. That's all you needed right there. The Barry Windsor Smith. Which was the very first inkling of that. That's all you needed.
Yeah. I got
That's all
that
you really
hardcover
needed.
That came out of that, and it was beautiful. And
because it added more mystery, and
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was beautifully rendered, like you said. That was his art style. He was kind of coming into his own. He had done that, or was doing that limited series with Machine Man 4-issue series.
Yeah.
And he was no longer. He was no longer a Kirby lookalike. He had come into his own sort of style.
Yeah. And he'd done a couple of X-Men stories with Storm and Forge, and he just had a really cool style. And but the death of Superman. That's the thing. When it's an imaginary story that's in one issue of Action Comics, and it's the death of Superman, and it's very sad at the end, and they said, don't worry, this was just an imaginary story. That's cool. When I've got to sit there and go, what, I get no Superman for 2 years? I have to wait for him to come back? I don't want that. As a reader, I hate that idea. I don't, it's good for about 2 seconds, but then.
And that was to sell you Steel and Superboy, which was great because of Tom Grummett, I think, was the best out of all of them. But I mean, these titles you normally wouldn't, that are Superman related, but you normally wouldn't, instead of buying one Superman book, now you're buying the 4 or whatever,
I stuck with Batman for a very long time. And when they announced they were going to do the backbreaking thing, I was out. I was like, I don't want to read. I don't want to read a comic without Batman. That's why I'm reading Batman.
Batman in Traction. Oh boy.
Yeah. Plus, I thought
I see. You're one of those. It's okay to kill Robin, but you can't break Batman's back. Got it.
Well, that's because you can pull up another Robin in a couple of days.
That's true. Yeah,
those
I
Robins
pull one out of his ass.
Yeah, you can just look in your couch cushions and find a Robin. Yeah. So, I don't like this idea of taking a story that was 8-page story in an old Action Comics and dragging it out for 3 years. I don't want that.
We were talking about this the other day, that I think Detective Comics is the only, because before they reached 1,000, they rebooted and started a second Action Comics #1 series. And I was like, how'd that go for you? And that second Earth run and stuff, shit, nobody wants. And female, Red Tornado. It's an android, for God's sakes. Okay.
Right.
And they did the same thing with Marvel with the Vision. Remember the Gold Vision that was female, sexy? But now that was that was Marvel Ultra, or sort of like the other universe, the more realistic. Yeah. The Ultimate line.
Yeah, I actually,
yeah.
the Ultimate line, I missed out on all that stuff because I'd stopped going to comic shops by then.
Yeah. And why?
So I was,
and why?
well, just because they really went south in the 90s.
Storytelling,
just,
whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. They weren't
it
engaging enough to keep your interest.
No, and look, I honestly do believe comics are probably intended to be read during a certain period of your life. You get a little window.
Oh, you're gonna be one of those, a hater. I got you. So I can't be reading my Kirby Avengers when I'm like 83 and drooling.
No. You can continue to read from your window your whole life. What I'm saying is that, like, I came in a certain period of Batman that's completely different than what Batman was in the 50s or Batman is now.
Oh, definitely.
Though
yeah, you're not getting dick spraying and things like that.
Right. That was my period of Batman, and I really enjoyed it. If I try to go back to what they're doing now, I don't know how you bridge that gap.
Now, have you seen the Batman 66 series? That guy had some nice art in it, and it looks pretty good, but I haven't gotten any of it.
I read a couple of the digital versions. They were kind of blasé. And what really stood out was who they couldn't get the likeness rights for. Alfred couldn't look like Alfred and that kind of stuff. But those Alex Ross covers were spectacular.
Yeah. Yeah, I bought whole series like Astro City and the Dynamite Superpowers simply just because of his covers, or Immortal Hulk. I like Alex Ross stuff. Depends on what it is, but most of the time, I try and hit those. He's an innovator. I think he's still doing some exciting stuff, and he's getting better and better, I think.
And what I appreciate is his, I don't know how to say it, but his aesthetic about what he thinks these heroes look like is great. I was going to show, speaking of this, I never actually put this up, but I got this, he did this calendar.
And calendar.
It's a mural. You can see the whole mural here. So he basically did the things.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's got these nice, on one side it has these nice like little 8x10s of the
and they made those into covers.
Oh, did they?
Individual covers. Yeah, they did a hero line and a villain line.
Okay, yeah. And
I've got the Doctor Strange and the Thing and some of them. Yeah.
Yeah, then you open it up. If I can do it, because it's so.
Wow, I did. So wow, okay, this is a calendar.
So this,
it's a mega poster.
And it's just a mural of all the.
And he's so spot on. It's the classic characters,
Right. Yeah. He remembers what they were when they were,
especially in the 70s, like the Bronze Age and 80s. They had a certain
Yeah.
And that's
but.
It's not hard it's hard to redesign a costume, when it's so iconic. And I don't see why you have to, really.
Yeah. But it's not just the fact that he makes them look kind of realistic or the fact that they're painted. It's that you can tell he loves the source material so much that, here's small enough you can see the whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you said, these are all the classic versions of what you remember these characters looking like.
Yeah, and especially his Hulk having the flat top. And I liked his Earth X stuff too. Yeah. I remember his Earth X, and I love the concept of the Hulk with the little Bruce Banner as a kid.
Yeah.
And him being more simian looking. That was pretty cool. I liked it. Different looks.
I just think
stuff. I missed out on a lot of that, and I've tried to pick that up in retrospective, but it was, he's actually doing something new with the characters, and they look cool.
When Marvels came out, it blew me away. Just that idea.
And the Aztec covers.
Those Aztec covers are cool, but that you would just look up and from a regular person's point of view and see the Fantastic Four, seeing these characters. And he just did. Let me grab that too. And I don't know how this was done because it was done with a different publisher. So I guess they licensed it. I don't really understand how this.
You
works.
know what his first comic book was?
No, I do not.
Terminator Burning Earth.
Oh, yeah. I do remember that he did. It wasn't
I think
nearly
that's an
as
underrated
good
book.
Yeah.
But underrated series, to tell you the truth. Oh, yeah. I haven't gotten that.
Did you see that?
I've seen it, but I've not gotten it. You know,
it is fantastic. The art is really cool. And it's not like his painted stuff so much. It's almost more like it's charcoal sketches or something with the color.
Yeah.
But you can tell he just has this. There's some really wild coloring.
He's got a great color palette.
Yeah, this is.
Well, he knows to stick with the Kirby, and the best of even something like that kind of reminds me of the John Buscema years,
Right. It looks like Reed Richards. But this is Marvel Arts, so I don't understand exactly how Abrams Books or Abrams Comics did this. So I don't know what the publishing deal was to be able to do it. Yeah. To do the Marvel characters, but it wasn't published by Marvel.
I'm thinking it was him. I might be mistaken. Didn't they did an oversized Treasury edition with Superman and meets the Fantastic Four?
Oh, I've never seen that.
You never seen that? I think I might have that in there. I had to go get it, but I can pull it for tomorrow.
I do have all the Treasury ones that Alex Ross did of the DC characters. Those were really
impressive. The Wonder Woman, Batman, Shazam, and Superman.
Yeah, and I think there was a Justice League one too. Those were nice books. A little awkward to read.
At
the size that they were, but
I did not know this till recently, or maybe I'd just forgotten it. They had Whitman variants of the Treasury editions, some of them.
I heard you say that. Yeah.
Well, in fact, I bought one recently. I've got one. I've got some big Treasury editions here if you want to see them.
I love those Treasury.
And I got a new calendar, Mark. We did puppies this year, so we're doing kittens next year. Now that they're coming out with 2025 calendars.
Okay.
I was curious to see. I couldn't wait till 2025 came out, and I'll tell you why. I wanted to know what our 1000th episode was going to be, because today is 830. That's going to fall on January 22nd, 1000. So hopefully, mark your calendar. If we survive that long,
that's a week before my birthday.
Oh, okay. Oh, wait a minute. Whoa, all right. When's your birthday? Let me mark it on the calendar.
The 28th.
January 28th. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Mark's birthday. All right.
Yep. On my 18th birthday, the Challenger exploded.
Yeah, I actually was, when that happened, I was working my first job out of high school, and I had went over to across the street to cash my paycheck and have lunch, and they had it on the TV there in the bank, and boom, I watched it blow up live on TV.
Wow, I did not see it live. Yeah, I was.
In fact, I was talking about it so incessantly, couldn't believe it. They sent me home early from work because they knew they weren't. I couldn't shut up about it.
You weren't gonna. I was still a senior in high school, and but I wasn't at school that day because I went for a job interview with the bowling alley at the Air Force Base. And while I was sitting there waiting to do my interview, they had the televisions with the news on, and I saw about it. But yeah, that was,
Yeah, it's
Shadowhawk
wild
says
because
January 22nd, a date that will live in infamy.
there you go. Yeah. I'm scarred for life. Yeah, just thinking about it.
Yeah, 1,000 episodes. That's insane.
Yeah, well, we're getting there. Of course, here is well, let me see this. Wait, there we go. There we go. So we got the Garcia Lopez. Great. This
That's
is
a
actually
great book. Yeah.
one of the lighter ones that came out in like '83, I believe. It's
Yeah.
there's your Two-Face being socked
Yeah,
by
that's nice.
Batman.
What a great artist Jose Luis Garcia Lopez.
He was, and he's still working for DC now. He does all their product type stuff and has since the 70s. I mean, he's kind of had that in-house style. Got this one. Oh, there we go. So I never did get the DC ones, but now the Marvel ones like this one I did. And this one here is signed by Roy Thomas inside.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's Leroy.
Yeah. And here's an extra copy that's kind of like a reader because, they're generally not in that great of shape. But look at this great
Usually
Jack
they're
Kirby,
folded in half. Yeah.
Jack Kirby on the back there.
I was going to say that I didn't have any Marvel, but I did have the first volume of the Star Wars.
Then you were right the opposite. You had the DC. I never saw the DC, but I saw the Marvel. I did have this one. This one's in pretty good shape, actually.
Yeah, that is in good shape.
Mm-hmm. But
I had the Star Wars one, the part one that had the first
the ones that I most recently got there. Incredible Hulk Rampage on the Rampage.
Nice.
Look at that Herb Trimpe transformation on the back.
That's pretty cool.
And you got a deluxe limited edition of the World's Mightiest Monsters.
Yeah, $1.50 doesn't seem like any money at all now. But my mom would not buy one of those. I'd come up with no, it's too expensive.
Look at this.
There's the Whitman. Yeah.
Yep. And the reason I got it is it's got the Glob in there, along with Havoc, an X-Men. The Havoc.
Oh yeah, that is Havoc. Yeah, I didn't even see the circles. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rhino.
It's got the stories in here. Of where they made their appearances. Havoc and even the green-haired
Polaris. Yeah.
Polaris was in there too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's that. I wasn't going for condition on some of these. There we go. First Golden Age Flash. Even got
they reprinted the back,
on the ad, And here's it. There you go. Wonder Woman.
Nice. Very nice.
It's just nice to have a copy,
Yeah.
And I've got a few others. These are just more recent, I had my Doctor Strange buried under all that.
I had one of the Superman ones, but the cover was long gone because I actually cut out the thing on the back.
That my Sergeant, 50 of them. I need those, for coloring.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your offer to take your, try your hand at coloring the.
Yeah, I think it'd be fun to really dig in and do something cool with it because it's only one piece, so I can put some time and effort to it. I sort of have some theories about some things I want to try, so it would be fun to do that and hopefully come up with something as cool as possible. Because got a lot.
As soon as I get the file, I'll let you know. I'll throw it to you over on X, I guess, or no, I guess Instagram.
What I'll do is I'll send you an email, have you email it to me so I can get it without any compression or anything. Because sometimes those services will.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal was with this colorist and whatnot, and I didn't ask him about it. I just asked, do I need to get a colorist for this? And he said, yes, you will. So I did. What is this?
Well,
Is
I
that the
gotta
Memory Lane?
think that everything that you do with
There we go.
these projects that's outside of you. Oh, Wanted Dead or Alive.
Yeah, that's the one I needed. He did 2 of these in the Dale 4-color. This is issue 1164.
Yeah.
And what I began to say was, Action Comics started their second series, and so they
Right,
kind of
when
need
Byrne took
they're
over,
hitting
yeah.
1,000. I think Detective Comics is the only one that actually hits 1,000 and it counts.
Yeah,
Because
who actually did 1,000
because they didn't
issues
start a
in it.
new series or new. I think Detective Comics is the only one that survived to actually be counted legitimate in my mind.
Yeah. Was it always monthly or was it bi-monthly at some point?
Well, that's a good question. I'm not sure because I'm not.
I'm not sure either.
Yeah. And even if it doesn't matter. I mean, they never.
They still made it to that number.
Yeah, but now with the Action Comics, see, that in the late 80s, they went Action Weekly. And they were churning out 4 per month for like 2 years. So that really upped the count.
But I think when Byrne took over, he wanted a new Action #1. So they did something like where one of the comics took over the Superman numbering and one took over the Action Comics numbering. Have I got that right? Or maybe Action Comics stayed.
I think
but Superman
did.
had a new one, and they did another comic that kept the Superman numbering, if I remember correctly.
Well, it's they had DC coming out with their 1,000th issue. So then what does Marvel do? Marvel 1,000.
Yeah, which it was a completely
and they're
Marvel
still
Comics
riffing
1000
on that.
Was just a made up thing. Yeah, there was never.
Yeah, I mean that's what I'm saying. It's so incestuous. I don't really get it.
How many actual Golden Age Marvel comics were there? Was there more than 1 or 2?
Well,
I know there's Marvel Comics #1.
Timely, you had Captain America.
Right, but there was an actual comic called Marvel
Comics
#1.
Marvel
but
Comics.
Did it have more than 1 issue?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And then I think they had Marvel Mystery Comics as well.
Right.
It might have went through a title change. I'm not sure. You generally had like a Submariner and Human Torch in those that I know of. Maybe Captain America. I mean, they were doing that even up into the 50s with some of their titles and
there were
when they were Atlas.
And
I'm not even sure when Timely changed from being. I've never even questioned that in my mind. When did Atlas come about? I would have to say probably early 50s, but it could have been as early as late 40s. I'm just not sure when they changed over from Timely to Atlas as a name.
Yeah, and I'm not even sure that they didn't swap back and forth on different titles and stuff. And they were the hilarious funny part was that Marvel or Atlas Timely was known for ripoff books. They they had all these, if whatever was a hit, they had a ripoff version of it. Like they had their version of Archie and they had their version of Dennis the Menace, and they were but I don't know that. I'm really wondering how many actual issues they did of Marvel Comics.
Quite a few. You'd have to look that up. They even had a 50s, maybe 40s. I'm not sure when the title started, but Marvel Tales, which in our time was like the second series was a reprint, but Marvel Tales had its own series in the 50s under Atlas. I know.
Okay, according to here, there was 1 Marvel Comics #1. Then from 2 to 10, it was called Marvel Mystery Comics.
Okay, there you go.
Then I guess it came back to Marvel Mystery Comics 11 through 14. I think that's what happened. I don't think they did more than 1.
Okay.
one issue of it being called Marvel Comics. I think Marvel Comics #1 is the only one. So that's the real
Okay.
funny thing when you say
Yeah.
Marvel Comics #1000. There wasn't even a Marvel Comics #2.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't, they skipped a little bit there, you know,
Well, didn't
but
they called
that
it
still
an 80th
pisses me off
anniversary,
about,
though, yeah.
that still pisses me off about Adventure Comics because it was an
Yes,
anthology and could have been anything. And no comic had went running from regular size to a digest for like 2 years.
Yeah.
Its 500th issue was even digest. There was 502. And it started in the early like 490s. You know,
Yeah.
like maybe 492. The very last full, you know, issue was Dial H for Hero, because that was still running at the time, and it was a George Perez cover, a nice
Yeah.
one. And
were they doing Superboy and the Legion in Adventure Comics for a while?
they started out, and I could go get them. They're upstairs, and maybe I'll get them and show them tomorrow again. But and I'm trying to get both sets. I'm trying to get 2 sets. All newsstand and all direct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I just wanting, and some of those are kind of hard to find, and some of them are expensive. People want, oh, digest. This is odd. I don't know. Let's charge 30. No, I'm not paying that. I don't know why some of these digests, but they're expensive. You know, yeah, they're 40 years old, but come on. And really, I don't think it matters, you know, which is which, because they're in a time there in the early 80s when I would say the direct ones are probably the ones that weren't as printed as much of.
Oh, do you think so? Do you think
yeah, I would say this is the way I do it. Okay. From 77, when they started the direct, you know, you had the little diamond, you had the little thing down in the barcode, you know, are the direct ones, because there wasn't that many comic book shops.
Right. Yeah.
That would come out with the direct market. Then, you know, 1986, it's roughly half and half. It only took about 5 years or less for them to totally destroy something that had been there decades, the direct market.
Oh, yeah.
And in 1997, it's about 38% newsstand. They really start slipping after, and by the end of the 80s, it's less than 10% of the run, or about 10% of the run. As you get closer to the year 2000, we're talking like 1% of the run, or past 2000, less than 1% of the run.
Yeah, because they were in bookstores at that point.
So, you know, Elsie, actually, I didn't know this till the other day, because I was talking about sending off my Harley Quinn to be graded. And he said, well, I'll trade you, and you can just sell this one now. He took my advice. He spent $920 on it. It wasn't cheap, but it was the cheapest one. It's graded a 9.2, I think, maybe 9.4. I can't remember. 9.2, I think. And then I got to looking at my copy. I said, yeah, I'll trade you, you know, for the raw one. And but I'm just kind of curious to get it graded, you know, what it would grade at. And I get looking at it, and it was like, I don't know, this might even be better than 9.2 if I get it. You know, I'm thinking the 8s, in the 8s, 7s or 8s, you know, but maybe more than that. But it's a newsstand, and his is the newsstand too. I said, get the newsstand, because that's less than 10% of the run, or around 10% of the run. And that's very uncommon.
Yeah, I was reading comic when I started getting comics. The comic shop, the direct market was starting, but I didn't have a comic shop, so I was still getting them off the newsstand. But I had always assumed that the switch over to direct comics was for Marvel and DC was more about, these are the more serious readers or whatever. But I read an old interview with Jim Shooter. Tomorrow's has this great series of hardcovers that cover the decades. And in the 80s one, they went over, and he was saying that they really thought they were getting ripped off by the newsstands, because what would happen is you would actually have the guys who were in the field decide not to bother to put them out, and they just leave the boxes there and just not do the work of putting them out. or you would they would cheat you about how many copies that actually sold. And so they really felt like they were getting ripped off, and that their numbers didn't mean anything. They had no value because there was so much corruption.
He wanted
with the
greater
newsstand system.
accountability.
Yeah. And he was like, but if I do it on the newsstand, then I know exactly, I don't have to buy them back, so I don't lose a bunch of money. Because that was his big thing. He was saying, like, you got them where the distributor doesn't even put the books on the shelves and then returns them to you, and you're just losing money there, and they're keeping whatever they claim that So there was just all kinds of corruption apparently involved with that. So he was very against it, but I think it definitely condensed the audience, because when you didn't, but then I was also reading too somewhere where they were talking about the fact that these convenience stores didn't want to lose the real estate to having the comic book racks. They could put in a video game and make a ton of money off that video game, whereas they didn't really make a lot off of the comic spinner racks. So the thing just kind of I guess really when they had that big contraction at the end of the 70s, that really kind of was the end of newsstand comics, even though they hung around for
in the early 80s. Comics were off to a slow start whenever I
because you started your shop. In
82 and 83, but we went to our first convention that was over at the Peabody Hotel in Memphis, the very first one. A couple years later we went to the second one, but the first one, they had like Rich Buckler there. They had Jerry the King Lawler because he was kind of local, and he also did art.
Right.
He brought a painting that he did of Mickey Mouse from Fantasia that was
nice. I never knew that he did do any art.
Ron Wilson was the one that was there. I always enjoyed his stuff out of Marvel 2-in-1.
I was reading the thing.
He's like 6'5". He's a big linebacker, man. He's a big old black guy. That's a big old football player. What was cool was somebody brought a hardback, wanted him to do a piece in like the sketch thing. Well, he already had a bunch of artists. He had like the only one that I can clearly remember, George Perez Green Lantern.
Wow.
Yeah, he had some nice one-of-a-kind book there because they did full drawings in that thing, and they were nice.
Yeah.
And Ron we were there looking over Ron's shoulder, looking at all the different, look at that. Whoa, Bob Simonson or whatever,
That was such a cool idea to do. And then the artists would actually do a good job because they wanted to compete with the other artists.
Exactly. And I even saw that in like when I went to Chicago in 85, 86, you get your program and they'd have an autograph page or two or whatever. And I remember Jerry Ordway did me I don't have it anymore because it burned up, but my friend has his with the signatures and stuff. But he did me a Superman head, Sergio Aragonés, quickest man in comics, man. I mean, I said,
right,
sign this? He was talking to somebody. 2 seconds, man. He not only signed it, 2 seconds. If it was more than 2 seconds, I'll sell you my mother. He had a Gru head drawn as well. And Texeria, he did a remark of a Ghost Rider, his head.
Okay.
So and they would make comments like, "Oh, nice Superman, Jerry," and draw an arrow or something. Whatever. They'd have fun with it. When I went up there in 85, Frank Miller actually signed his name, Frank Miller. Next year I went up there, FM, Frank Miller.
Yes.
That's when sometime in there he changed his way he signed the stuff, just FM, But,
I think I showed you that book that I got that had the signatures, and Howard Chaykin's is an H with a dot.
yeah.
Like, wow, really?
I was never a Chaykin fan, but I kind of got to envy him. He was sort of the understudy of Gil Kane, which is wild.
Yeah. I do remember thinking that flag. What was it called?
Oh, black. Yeah. I was just going to tell you about that. Yeah.
I'm blanking
American
on the
flag.
American flag. That was the
Yeah.
name of it. Yeah, I thought that book looked really cool. I do remember reading some of them, and they were
Remember the
so-so.
Risque series
But
that came out in the late 80s? I forget. It was called Black something. It came in like
Black
black poly
Lace.
bag.
Yeah, I think it was Lace. I think it was Black Lace or something like. I
Yeah.
never saw an issue of it, but I do
Well,
remember.
I never did either because I never opened the poly bags, but I used to have a bunch of them, because I thought it was pretty neat.
Yeah, that's the worst thing you can do to
Well,
a
that's the
collector is
ultimate
put it in a
question
back.
for you, Mark.
Yeah.
Do you open poly bags or not? Especially the ones that are printed on, like I remember Texaria had a issue come out that had a skull and fire and stuff printed on the poly bag. So I know Shadowhawk opens it up because the chemicals from the bag and puts it in the back of the boarding bag or whatever, saves it.
Oh,
But
okay.
do you
No,
open up and a lot of them
open them
come
to
with
read them.
trading
Yeah.
cards and stuff like that.
Yeah, I do remember there were some of the Marvel ones
X
that came
Factor
with
number
trading
1.
cards. Yeah.
If you get the I'm told that's a pretty desirable card in high grade if you got the Deadpool card, especially now with the new movie out, I would think.
Yeah. No, I opened them because I wanted to
I
read
remember
the
Ron
comic
Garney,
inside.
yeah.
So.
He was a writer, wasn't he? Ron Garney?
I don't remember.
But yeah, I mean, do you take your comics out of poly bags or do you leave them in?
I take them out.
Okay.
And you made me laugh because I just did this a week ago. At one of the conventions, they had this. If you were a VIP or whatever, you got this Batman Adventures 12 with a cover, and it had been sitting in a box somewhere, so I'd never opened it. So I did open it to see what it was. It was a Virgin
wow.
cover.
Okay. Yeah.
Art germ or whatever.
So
but
does it reproduce the first appearance of Harley Quinn?
I believe so. I actually haven't even opened it, but
Okay.
I believe it's
All
a
right.
reprint of that issue
With a new modern version cover. That's cool.
Yeah, and you can see on the back here they list all the different variants that they had as part of the.
Oh, so it's
Fan
kind of like
Expo
a
thing.
grab bag what you wind up with, huh?
Right. Yeah. So it was black, so you couldn't see what the cover was,
Mhm.
and I guess people probably bought a bunch of them trying to get
sneaky
the.
like that. They don't want no cheat.
Yeah.
Hold it up to the light. No.
Yeah, they don't want to. They don't want you to do it.
I mean, that became a thing with really the Spider-Man Platinum. With Todd McFarlane starting a new title called Spider-Man, and had the Platinum polybag, and then you also had the Death of Superman, like you said, where they had the armband and all that stuff in there, a poster, polybag in with stuff. Yeah.
And wasn't there were like two versions of it. There was like a black polybag and a white polybag or something of the Death of Superman. Am I right on that? Or was the white one when he came back? I don't remember.
I don't know who Ron Garney, what his big book was. I'm thinking
That doesn't sound familiar to me.
Yeah,
Ron Garney.
He did a number of things, I know, but I'm just not that familiar with Ron. There's only certain writers. I think he's a writer.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like he. It says known for books such as JLA, The Amazing Spider-Man, Silver Surfer, Hulk, Daredevil, and Captain America. Worked on JLA, and then Scar, Son of Hulk, and Wolverine, Weapon X in the 2000s.
Did you like the mashup things, sort of like the amalgamated universe, Dark Claw, Wolverine, and Batman combined? Did you like any of that stuff?
I got a few of them, but I really didn't care for them. I don't think any of them. And I also got if Stan Lee created the DC universe. It was a novelty. It was fun to look at, but
I've actually got from one of those Stan Lee books. I've actually got a page from one of those. It was the Aquaman thing, and it's signed, and it's from Oh, God, am I going to have to look in there? Just a moment. Let me go get it. Gosh, it's sitting right.
Do 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 do. Why was the wedding issue? Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, I think Death of Superman I bought 2 copies of, thinking that it might actually be worth something at some point, which was a rarity. I never really did that. I think I bought 2 copies of the Man of Steel miniseries.
Been sitting here
at
so
the
long,
time.
my knee didn't want to work.
Yeah, it's almost 7:00.
Yeah, yeah. It's Just Imagine Aquaman, and it's Ramona Frieden who just passed
Oh,
away.
that's incredible! Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
So I can't
Yeah, that's
remember what I
nice.
gave for it, but it was a pretty good deal, and I wanted something of Ramona, you know. And then on the
Yeah.
back is that unpublished Harlem Globetrotters page by Sal Buscema.
Wow.
And I've got another page to this story too. It was unpublished.
Huh.
So, but yeah, I'm glad
Yeah.
to have the Ramona piece, you know, and that was that
Yeah.
Just Imagine Aquaman sort of Stan Lee type thing, you know.
Right. I, as a kid, was getting the Super Friends comic every once in a while, and she
Super
was working
Friends,
on
and to
that.
get those in high grade, it's almost impossible, Mark, you know.
Well, yeah, because us kids bought them and, and
Mhm.
tore them
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, and in fact, the very first Super Friend thing that I ever bought, and I do have the Super Friends like Treasury editions that
Yeah,
they
there
came
was a
out with, a
Treasury
couple of them.
with an Alex Toth cover. Yeah.
Yeah, and I actually had a production piece to one of those from Brazil in Portuguese, and had sold it. It was the big
Hmm.
splash with all the characters in there. I mean, every
Yeah.
one of them. You know, that was a nice piece. But they was in one of the little digest. It reprinted like number issue 3 or 4, which was an
Okay.
interesting. It was like an android that can mimic. Somehow, if he came in contact with the other when he was attacked by the others, he would take on their powers. So he wound
Oh,
up
yeah.
defeating them, and somehow they tricked him or something. I don't know. It was an interesting story, and it was by Ramona.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
out of the Super Friends, it was just a reprint, you know, in one of those little digests. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like I said, there was a lot of stuff I would never have been exposed to that was DC lore. Um,
Yeah.
if it
Yeah.
hadn't been those little digests. So those really have a soft spot in my heart, you know. And
Yeah.
I hope to produce a little digest here pretty soon, a Devil Fly or something, you know, in little digest.
Yeah. I wonder if there's a standard size that you could get printed that that would work that way.
What do
Well,
you mean standard size?
for the digest.
Well, I mean, it is
like
it
some of these digital printers they'll offer you that you can do it if that's one of their standard sizes that they
well,
put.
now I know out of I think out of Nashville that there's a place that'll do digest or about anything you want, or novelization. It's like 7 by 5, these little digests, some give or take, you know. The nice little
I don't know
size.
if Shadow actually is already gone, but by Shadow. I think
No, he's still here. Yeah. Yeah,
have
Mark,
a great
thanks
night.
for coming on. Actually, we were going to have Dionysus, and apparently he's just too busy. So, you know,
Okay.
and I get it. He's got a 2-year-old plus a newborn, and he says the post office is working him to the bone. So he's working like 12-hour days, you know, with occasional day here or there off. But and he's of course working on his book, and he's working on a few things for me. So I hope, you know, I was hoping to talk to him, but apparently couldn't make it. But thank you for coming in and
No
having a great
problem. It was fun to
conversation
hang
with
out
you.
again.
I always like to talk comics with you.
You want me to say it?
Yeah, say the thing. We'll go ahead and get out of here.
Keep collecting.
Wow, he remembered.
I remembered
it in one. Bow.